All right, shalom, shalom, peace, peace. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste, hosayana kitabuya, ohio, I see you, manut, wagwan, kamsamida, aloha, ciao, onson, abarigani, aqua abba, madase, etasin, jambo, mimini kofini na franco katana de wewe, boker to, boker tau, grand rising, bakwarta, malakalat sham yakaba, night kovai, kohelet the servants of Christ, mashalam chi. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, pastor of Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for being on with us. Thank you for being on with us on time. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate your heart. We are thankful and grateful to have everybody with us today, regardless of how you are joining us. If it's your first time, one time of many, whatever the case might be, we thank you so much for being with us today as we continue in the Word and continue in this series. And if you want to go ahead and get a jump start, you can go ahead and turn to Barashayat Lamed, or Genesis chapter 30. We will not be reading it word for word today, right? But we will be making sure that we talk about this and talk about, within Barashayat, which means in beginning the series we've been doing since February the 7th. We are fast approaching Sunday, which is our day of Pentecost. We'll be celebrating about 2 p.m. New York time, physically and virtually. Physically in Philadelphia, virtually on Zoom. So prayerfully, you guys will be ready to join us for that. We'll try to make sure that it's recorded for you as well, so you can be part of what Yah has in store for us as a people, as a nation, as we continue to hold these truths to be self-evident, that Yahweh Sha'al is who Yah says that we are from in beginning, from Barashat. We give our honor and praise once again to Yahweh Elohim. I give all praise and honor for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who's actually on right now at this moment. As always, supportive. Thank you, babe, for being on. Love you very much. You can follow her once again. She's Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. And thank you, babe, for being on. To the moderators, Minister Sap, SOC, Lottie Dye, everybody, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your heart. Hey, thank you for any likes, shares, subscriptions, hitting the notification tab if that's something that you are able to do, so that you can see when we come on YouTube. We're excited as well. Thank you for all those who were in attendance this weekend for Memorial Day weekend. We were able, for the most part, to have a chance to see pretty much most of everybody who was able to make it. And we saw everybody who was able to attend. Those who weren't able to attend this time, prayerfully, when we do something similar, we'll be able to see all you guys. And those of you who we missed, and all our travels, we're still pretty much traveling, but we're kind of at home base for a hot second. And all those things that are going on, we're hoping and praying that everything goes well for each and every one of you who are joining us today. Thank you for being on again. So once again, if you want to turn with us in your Bibles to Genesis chapter 30, please feel free to do so. Also, too, we still do have a family that's in need that we're trying to raise some stuff for, at least through Thursday, possibly Friday. So if you're able to help out with that, we thank you in advance. For those who are helping out in different ways, such as the 5 to 10, thank you for those who participated on Sunday. Also, don't forget, soon we'll be having our graft in teaching, which is for everyone, to make sure that we're all on one accord with the word, and that we're all going through the same thing, that we're all coming back into the knowledge of who the Most High is correctly, and that from this point on, we should all recognize what is established here with this branch of the tree, this branch of Zion, or of Zion. And we thank everybody for being on again. So we appreciate you. We honor your presence. We're thankful and grateful. Thank you to everybody. We know there's still a few of us that are actually in the D.C. area, so we're praying for safe travel and mercy for everybody, that everybody make it home. I guess for those who celebrate Memorial Day, or those at least who might have off for Memorial Day, hopefully you enjoy your time. And even if you don't, others are celebrating it during these holy days that the world has. There can be a lot of different moving parts and pieces and stuff going on. So please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure that you protect yourself when you're in your vehicles, when you're traveling different places. Prayerfully, you're taking time out to make sure that you're safe, praying for those around you as well, and that y'all guide them as well. And also, thank you everybody who was with us today for Early Riser Bible Study Session. Excellent message by our very own Minister Samaya LeRae, as Yah continues to bless her, keep her, heal her. It's showing up even in those mighty messages that she gives unto us. So we're thankful and grateful. Alrighty, I'm on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Thank you for being on once again. We're gonna jump right in. Um, let's see. Shalom, how you doing, Sister Knight? How you doing, Elder Select Knight, excuse me. How you doing, Sister Beck? How you doing, Fannie Lou? Queen Esther, Sister Greta. I don't know if it's Pirates, CC, ICS Network, Enlighten, Brother Rodney, Wilburn. How you doing? How you doing, babe? Once again, love you. Thanks for being on. Is it bought and paid for? Big Brother Thomas, Cole, Lefarius, D'Angelo, Wilburn, everybody who's on. And if we miss you on any platform, charge it to my head, not to my heart. I'm thankful and grateful to have you guys on with us. I'm on. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead, get ready to get started. If you'd like to go ahead, stand to your feet, or if you were able to stand to your feet. If you're not, however, you're able to reverence the word of Yehovah. We ask that you get ready to do so with us in just a little bit. Praise God. If you were able, as you were able to reverence the word of Yehovah. Praise God for you. I had to stare, do my normal stare down when it's time to start in this area as the police magically appear. I'm back. We back. Praise God. All right, we're going to get ready to get started. Hold on one second. If you're able to stand on your feet or reverence God, we're about to say our Bible pledge and we shall jump right in. Once again, we're going to be focusing on Genesis chapter 30. If you'd like to turn there, feel free to do so. Thank you for doing so in advance. All righty. Praise God. All right, you can just put your right hand in the air. How you doing, Sahara? Everybody coming in, Sister Mignon. Praise God to everybody. How you doing? Big Brother Terrence in the house as well. Sister Barbara, Big Sister Barbara, how you doing? All righty. Hopefully your healing journey is continuing, by the way. All right, let's say our Bible pledge and we'll jump right in. You can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Atshem Yehovah. Aman, which is in Yehovah's Shem, his name, his authority, let it be done unto us. You may be seated to go back to what you were doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. Thank you for reverencing the word with us. All righty. So we're in this Barashayat series. Once again, this has been a series, right? Going back to February 7th. So there might be some questions, comments, or concerns that some of you may have. I believe Thursday, I had said yesterday, but I was wrong. I believe Thursday is our next Q&A day. So we'll set that up, and we'll actually set it up for a couple of days in a row. We'll go Thursday, Friday with the Q&A. For those that might have questions, comments, or concerns, that seems to be something that everybody said they'd be okay with. Since we have so many questions that come down the pike virtually beforehand and then virtually during. So we'll use Thursday and Friday this week to do our Q&A. So thank you guys for your patience in that. But we're going to get ready to go into Genesis 30. We finished up Genesis 29, speaking on the 4 names. And we actually went through this weekend. We tried to get into the 5 that we wanted you to focus on, these 5 things that has to happen when we're talking about us as a people and who is Israel, who is the kingdom of heaven, who is the nation, what is nationality, etc. And we had to talk about some other things on Saturday to set that up foundationally. So then yesterday, we spoke specifically on those 5 things. And talking about nationality, we were actually able to show you some things even in the National Mall. By the way, those on Patreon, I am working on doing that makeup session for you guys, where you guys will be able to see stuff since apparently the sound turned off. So I will upload the one where the sound turned off and then me talking about it, so you can fast forward through one and be able to see the other simultaneously or at different times to be able to see everything that I'm talking about. So that is coming. I'm not sure if it's coming today, but that is coming. I will have Tuesday and Wednesday off outside of what we do on Patreon, but we will have that stuff set up for you guys. And even if you weren't with us on that day, even if you're not part of Patreon, if you would like to see that recording, you'll just have to let me know. But I'll send you that link when we get that uploaded. Amen. And thank y'all for the love. Appreciate you. Whether you're joining us on TikTok, YouTube, some other platform later on, I thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again. All righty. So we're focused here now. Today, what Holy Spirit gave me is a theme. As we get ready to go through Genesis 30, let's say we'll go through half of it today. We won't go through it as a whole. But the theme that I've been given for us today, the motif for us to study through, the prism to study through, if you will, is coming through these words. You signed up for this. You signed up for this. Praise Yah, right? And prayerfully, like I said, if you were reverencing Yah's word, you may be seated to go back to what you're doing in Yahweh's presence. You signed up for this. Now, what am I talking about when I say you signed up for this? What are we speaking on? You signed up for this. What do we mean? What does one mean? You signed up. We signed up for what? Right? You signed up for this. Well, what is this? Right? Well, we signed up as a people because when you're talking about nationality, nations can go into debt. Right? And so you have to be careful what you did generations ago, because whatever one generation signs up for, whether we like it or not, it flows down to another generation. How you doing, Speak Life? Right? A lot of persons might not like our saying that. They might not like our talking about it. But persons have signed up for this. How you doing, Lilu? Or somebody could have signed you up for something, for generational trauma, for generational curses, right? Also, too, we should be signing up generations for blessings. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we have to be honest, is that we signed up for this. Our people, especially if it's, see, I need persons to catch this. Through us, all nations will be blessed. Because you are the barometer, you are the ruler, you are the teacher, you are the master, you are the ones who are supposed to report what Yah says, according to Isaiah, right? According to Jacob himself in Genesis 28, according to Yahashua himself, right? In Matthew 24, according to Paul himself, in Romans chapter 3, and Romans chapter 8, and Romans chapter 10, and Romans chapter 11, right? According to John in Revelation chapter 7, according to John in Revelation chapter 20, verse 12, we can keep on going. You signed up for this, but we are the progenitors, and we are the ones who are supposed to set rules. So if we are out of pocket, beloved, then that means anybody who's looking at us as a standard is out of pocket, because even those who will say they are us and will change it, they still have to use what we give them before they change it. Oh no, definitely not for Versace. This is a blessing, a gift that was given unto us, that was handcrafted in our culture. Even has the original, what we would call fringes. Now the fringes, we kind of do a different thing with them, but the fringes and everything, this is cultural, right? Thankful to my SOC family for taking care of their pastor and my family also, right? But you signed up for this. I am, no, I'm not Jewish. To be Jewish, you have to be kind of sort of something. By bloodline and everything, E1B1A, blood, by DNA, L2, L3, L4, all that great stuff, right? By two becoming one and being one nation, one culture, and even by United Nations standards and even by the Jewish community standards. I am an original Avra, Ivrit, I am an original Yehadasha'al, or what you might call a Jew, not Jewish, but the letter J doesn't even exist in our language, right? Right? But that being said, see, that's why we even have to go back to in beginning, because from a lot of things, people have misrepresented stuff, and we've allowed the misrepresentation, and some of us even fight for the misrepresentation so hard that we don't recognize that we fight against ourselves. As I say quite often, a lot of your schools that you go to, right, if you're going, I don't care if it's private, public, etc. If you're going to a Eurocentric school, I don't care how it's accredited, right? Really, non-accredited schools are usually going to be better than accredited. That being said, you're presenting something that goes against what it is that you're going to learn about yourself, right? And we haven't realized that our people signed up for this. How you doing, Minister Morel? You said by bloodline, I'm a human being? Sure. Yeah. So by bloodline, you're a human being, right? So I don't know if you have children, but let's just go down the same logic. See, we're going by somebody else's logic, or not even going by logic. I'm going to speak to you like you're royalty, like you deserve to be treated like royalty. So I'm going to speak kingdom sense, not common sense. Let's do this. You ready? By that same thought process that you're going, you're a human being, so it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So let's say someone is a father. They have 5 children. Those children belong to that father. Is that correct? How you doing, Minister Stephen? Is that correct? Is that a correct statement? I want to make sure. Would that be okay? Michael, is that something? Because we got to have an agreement. Even if we're going to have conversation or debate, apologetics, whatever it is, there should be ground rules. So I have to see what your assumptions are. So let's make sure we agree on the assumption. If somebody is a father of 5 children, they should take care of those 5 children. Is that correct or no? If you have 5 children, let's say, to make it even simpler, or to make sure that we don't fight about this, the children are ages 5 to newborn. All 5 children back to back to back to back to back. Should that father, even though he should have a wife in his life and all those things, of course, but is that father ultimately, right, should he be held accountable for what happens with his family? Is that correct? See, this is weird behavior. We got to get rid of the weird behavior. See, it's difficult to talk about the truth because people live by half truths, which means you live whole lies. There's no such thing as a half truth or partial truth, and if it's a partial truth, it's an opinion. And we have to be careful how much we opine. How you doing, brother Dwayne? Was watching some of your videos and reposting some of them on TikTok. Keep doing what you're doing, right? See, there we go. Did she leave or did the state take her son? See, so let's see. So it's going to be a thing to where we're going to get to a place where we're going to be like, see, well, maybe you should. Maybe, okay, all things. Let's just do it like this. I'm going to speak as if everything is able to work out the way that things were intended from the beginning, because that's what we're talking about, is Barashayat, right? So, if I'm the father of 5 children, ultimately, if my children need help, I should take care of them. Wow, I did something there I didn't mean to. But okay, whatever, right? But anyway, some of you get what I just put myself in something I didn't even realize. But okay, right? But if here is a father, he has 10 children. He has 5 children. He has 3 children. He has 7 children, whatever. In these 10 children, whatever it is, this father has 10 children. He should protect, do his best to provide for, take care of them, and take care of a wife, especially if the wife is in submission. That doesn't mean submission submitted to you, but that means she's submitted to the mission, therefore submission. And you should make sure that you are there, right? So whatever reason you want to go by this, let's just assume whatever in your head needs to work to make this perfect, because everybody, once again, this is what happens. We sign up for things and we don't realize what we're signing up for. We're trying to sign up for every reason in this sense, in this occasion, why the father should not take care of his child or why it's okay. But let's just say whatever you need to do to make sure that the father should take care of his children. Let's just say that happens, right? See, we got to be careful what we're signing up for, even in this discussion, right? So the father should take care of his children. Ultimately, my point is this, because the person came on here. If Michael is still on, I believe it was Michael. If I'm mispronouncing your name, please forgive me, right? Or missaying your name. If a father is responsible for his family, for his wife and his children, and there's other children that are next door, or there's other children in another country, or there's other children that are even part of his enemy, or there's other children who literally beat his children up all day, or there's other children that shoot at him and his family. Should that father take care of the other children before his? That's my point. Before we go into all the reasons, see, this is where I can already see where we're going. This is why we got to set stuff right in our culture. This is for our culture. This is our belief system. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to establish righteousness and correctness, and even give correction, rebuke, exhortation, etc. All these things that should be there, right? So if a father has several children, right, and somebody else has several children, should he take care of his children first? Or should he take care of the other children and his children starve? Should he have children in his house that starve? Or should he make sure he takes care of his house? How you doing, Brother Darius? How you doing, Father's Joy? I'm not here to tell you that we shouldn't try, if we can, to take care of children that are not our own. I do it all the time. SOC does it all the time. Yah does it more than what you guys might think he does as well. But hear what I'm saying, right? Nobody wants to answer that question, because if we answer it, then a lot of this foolishness is about to go away. It's pretty easy. See, you're making the assumption, right, that somebody should make sure that their house starves so that everybody would starve, or that everybody should be treated the same, even if some of the persons you're treating the same are the persons who would make sure that your children would starve. Once again, the question is, and see, nobody wants to answer this part when we get into this. Nobody wants to answer. Everybody was quick to be like this, that, no. If a father has a wife and children, should he take care of his house first and then say, what can I do to help others? Or should the father say, if my wife and children starve and die, it's okay because somebody else is being taken care of? You see what I'm saying? I didn't say that the children were out of his house. You see what I'm saying? We're trying to make every excuse why the father shouldn't do that. You said, was Adam a child of Elohim? Yes. But you won't answer my question, so I'm going to help you. Because see, even when you go there, you make my point for me. See, you might not know that the 5 points that we talk about is you got to have the will, right? When you're talking about what passes down from family member to family member, there's will, there's lineage, there's birthright, there's blessing, and then there's a charge. And you want to act like everybody receives the same birthright when even with Adam, right, there's a bloodline of Adam that goes to Cain and there's a bloodline of Adam that goes to Seth. Is that correct? See, you want to go there. You want to answer my question. That's why I'm going to go ahead and just not. If you won't be fair, if you won't have, this isn't conversation and it's not debate. You are so busy saying, I want to say that what you're coming up next, even though you're assuming, you don't even know what I believe, right? You're assuming. But that being said, your mindset is, I'm going to come on here and say that whatever you're about to say is wrong. So you're living in a lie because you're living in something where you're trying to read my heart and you cannot. You're incorrect. There's a difference in between the sons of Cain and the sons of Seth. Not because they're different persons, even coming out of Adam, they're brothers, but what Cain is doing, and even if you look at the bloodline, the names of Cain's children, we've already gone through this in the series. So if you really want to dig into this, you can look up the series on our YouTube channel, hashtag Find Kofi, and be able to discover the names of them, right? But look at the name of Cain's children and how basically they start to name themselves as persons who want to be separate from Elohim, separate from Elohim, separate from the Most High. Then look at the bloodline of Seth and look at the names. Adam means man, right? Seth means compensation, right? Compensation for what happened with Cain and Abel, right? Then there comes Enos. Enos basically, really, they changed his name. He really is Adam again. But you have Enos, which basically means man, or man getting another chance, right? Then out of Enos comes Mahalalel, which means that we praise Elohim. Man will now praise Elohim. Out of Mahalalel comes Jared, which means that there's descendants. That's what then Jared gives birth to Enoch. Enoch meaning dedicated. These descendants are dedicated. Dedicated how? Or what's going to be caused out of this dedication? Out of Enoch comes Methuselah. Methuselah meaning that he doesn't miss the mark. In fact, we're trying to be sinless. Do not miss the mark. Sin means to miss the mark or to miss the target. Then after Methuselah comes Lamech or Lamech. Lamech means power. There's power in that. Then comes Noah. Noah means rest. Out of Noah comes Shem. Shem means what? Now there is Shem, Ham, and Japheth, but we're talking about what? Those who are descendants of a specific thing the Bible tells you about. Though, right? Because Genesis is not focusing, even though it tells you who Japheth is, it tells you who Ham is and who their children become. But the focus is then who? Shem. To our fox side. Our fox side, right? Shem means name, authorized, right? Then name or authorization gives birth to our fox side. Our fox side doesn't even know how to handle it. His name literally means how do we handle this thing that we get, or I don't know how I identify. But by the end of our fox side, or at least by the time he's a father, he names his next child Salah. Salah means he pauses, thinks about it to the point to where things are able to grow in his head. And out of that, then Salah gives birth to Eber, or Avra, or Ivrit, or Hebrew. Hebrew meaning that his territory expands. Hebrew gives birth to Pelag. Pelag means when the earth split. So our territory expanded and kept expanding even past when the earth splits. The earth splits because you just had a flood to split everything up. See, so you're talking about all this stuff, but you don't want to deal with lineage. Just because we're all human beings doesn't mean we're all of the same lineage. And just because we're all human beings doesn't mean we all believe the same thing. And just because we all might think that we know what morality is, some people don't even believe morality is real. But morality is based off of what? A moral lawgiver. You cannot have morality without a moral lawgiver. You cannot have evil if there's not righteousness. If you have righteousness, there has to be some kind of moral law. If there's going to be some kind of moral law, you have to have a moral lawgiver. If there is a moral lawgiver, then you have to know who that is. Even the term universe for universal law, universe literally means a single spoken sentence. So in other words, if you don't follow what the person who spoke the sentence into being, you will be separated or cast out of the universe. There's a place that we have designated for that, at least the Most High does, and that place is called hell. So yes, everybody can be a human being, but even Romans chapter 8 verse 19 says that the creature, the creation, is waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. If the children, the sons, the lineage of Elohim never manifest, where are we at? Ah, ah, right? You see? So if we don't manifest, then if we never manifest as the tree, right? Then how do we know who the branches are? And then if we don't have branches, how do we know who's been grafted in? And if the tree's not planted by the rivers of water, then according to Psalm 1, then those are persons who sit in the seat of the scorners, who are not like Elacham, who are in the council of those who are against the Most High, the Antichrist. So yeah, I'm not Antichrist. See, before you take this to a place of where you're just going to say we're all human, yes, we're all human. Before you even go to a place of we're all black, yeah, there's some black folk that I shouldn't trust. Not all skin folk is kin folk. See Candace Owens. See the general that they got out there trying to go against the general over in Africa right now, who's doing nothing more than saying we should be a free nation, and this general who's coming on America and saying, see, all black people around the world, you should hate him because he's not doing what the CIA, the FBI, the United States of America, the United Nations want them to do, which is to grovel on their knees. The same way that we should be upset that the Irish still have Londonderry in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland is still under the oppression of England. Is both are wrong? Is that correct? When Irish women and Scottish women were being forced against their will to give up their chastity and to give children to those that were English soldiers, we should be heavily against that. Well, when they do it to our women here in the United States corporation, we should be heavily against it, no? I'm just saying. So before we go to this place where everybody's like, well, we're all human beings. Yes, we're all human beings. Of course we're human beings. And if I were to see one of our black sisters, so-called black women, right, black sisters or Negro sisters or Israelite sisters, etc., in front of me and somebody was trying to force them against their will to lay down with them, I would try to take the life of that man, more than likely. I hope I would not, but I would more than likely try to take the life of that man, right? And if I saw an Irish woman and something was happening to her, I wouldn't stand there and watch it. I would hopefully do the same. And if your whole thing of telling the person who's trying to help the persons who are being forced against their will to do something and be something and to give birth to things that they shouldn't even have to, and it's not even part of their culture, but somebody's forcing them, your whole reason of protecting them is because we're all human beings, you don't know how to protect humanity in the first place, and maybe your mouth should do this. Respectfully. Right? Maybe your mouth should close up. If all you can tell me is we're all human beings, if all you're gonna tell me is some of y'all go further, everybody was slaves, yes, that means then all slave masters are wrong. So why are we gonna caper for this one? Because we're saying, well, everybody had evil done to them, and everybody's had somebody in their family that's done evil. Yeah, I've had persons in my family who have committed the sin of taking somebody's life for unrighteous reasons. That doesn't mean that I say, well, then nobody should get locked up if they take the life of somebody for unrighteous reasons. No. No. Right? But you tell on yourself. Just like we just had this whole thing of I'm trying to say fathers should take care of their children, and we had to go through like 2 minutes of trying to fight against, well, should a father actually or did somebody do wrong? Why can't you accept that a father should take care of their children and it literally in nothing more than an example? If you want to give me other examples of why fathers cannot, hey, I've been there, done that. See, but I have to see even in your question, there's an assumption, and we got to figure out what's going on. How you doing, Sister Jennifer? How you doing, Brother Rich? Doesn't say so. How you doing? Is it Glizzius? Everybody, how you doing, Slick? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Marcus? If I miss anybody coming on here, please forgive me. Thank you. I appreciate you. How you doing, Captain? Captain of the Lord's host, Saskia, everybody, right? So anybody can be grafted in if they want to be righteous, which, right? But we still got to be righteous. We're talking about a nationality here. And see, you get what you signed up for. We've signed up for this foolishness. I'm trying to get really to Genesis 30, because that's where we are in the series. And in Genesis 30, we see that there's Leah and Rachel still fighting. And Rachel wants something that belongs to Leah, right? And both of them are having a fight, but they're having a fight because they signed up in unrighteousness from beginning. They lied, and they followed their father's lie, their father's example, and now they're going to be dealing with something until the sisters die, to where they're pinned against each other rather than living in the promise that should have been for one sister, and the other sister could have supported, and the father, rather than trying to get everything he could have out of a situation, has now put things in place that will ultimately drain him and have his daughters not be in his life anyways. Because from beginning, people are tagging on to stuff and holding on to things, and you're having a fight that's not even your fight. But you might have caused it, or your people might have caused it generationally. Things that persons did thousands of years ago still affect you today. If you don't believe so, look up Christianity, because Christianity doesn't exist until somebody told you it was a real thing. By the way, and how you doing, Big Brother Charles? By the way, what does man mean? Do you even know? Before you start talking about where you're all from Adam, you're all human beings, you're a human. What does man mean? What does human mean? What does humus man mean? See, you got to be careful because you're going into a eugenics conversation. You don't even recognize it. So you might want to pump the brakes, because if you want me to use eugenics, even though it's something you've seen it before, it disproves your argument. Right? Right? Come on, Cry. See, like if we're going to talk about hue, we can talk about color, or really it's actually something even deeper. It's actually a compound word. It is humus, man. Humus means it is dark, rich, nutrient earth. And man means spirit. And the further back you go for all of us, no matter what color you are, no matter if you're Japheth, Ham, or Shem, guess what? The further back you go into your bloodline, the further back you go into your family, the closer we all get to coming from one place to Noah, right? Especially, but even before Noah, the darker we all become. That's why this whole thing of Greeks are white doesn't even make sense, because Greeks weren't white. Look it up. Stop looking at Hollywood or Hollyweird. Look it up. Uh-oh. I was patting the top of my thing thinking it was closed. Sorry. Right? But look it up. Um, King Leonidas had locks. He was dark skinned. Look it up. Alexander the Great's father is considered to be swarthy, which means Alexander the Great had to at least be what you call mixed. And there are a lot of persons that think that his mother would have been swarthy as well. If you don't know what swarthy means, it means dark colored. Right? So when you say even the Greeks, you have to be careful. That's why you don't know the difference between Egyptians and Kemetic persons, because Kemet came first, even though Cush really predated Kemet as far as culture, right? But Kemet came before Greece, and the Greeks that came, Cleopatra and them, they would have been what you call today black, or she would have been what you call today black, but she was not Kemetic. Now, is there a possibility that maybe her mother might have been Kemetic? We don't know, so maybe you give her that. But she was dark skinned, but it doesn't mean that she identified as Kemet. She identified as Greece because she's from the Ptolemaic dynasty. The Ptolemaic dynasty, Alexander the Great had no children. There were 4 generals that split up his land. It talks about that in Daniel chapter 7, the leopard with 4 heads. Daniel chapter 2, that was the bronze on the statue, the Bronze Age, right? But you have this woman who, but she came out, Ptolemy was one of the 4 generals that split up Alexander the Great's empire, and he took over Kemet, names it what you call it now, right? So now you look at it as um, Egypt. I don't even say it enough to always remember the name of it. But you look at them as being Egyptian, not realizing the Egyptian is the Greek version of an African, so-called African. How you doing, Born King? How you doing, Rose? But you're having all this conversation, and you don't even recognize what it is. So when you talk about humanity, yes, there's lineage, but there's a lot of stuff you don't even know about lineage. And a lot of us who are black try to just simply say we're Egyptian, because not because we even looked at Egypt, even though we kind of did, but not because we looked at Egypt as this great place, but because persons who have taken a lot of things out of Egypt, who are of Eurocentric descent, who thought that who taught for the longest time that Egyptians were white, and taught that there was no way that Egyptians could have woolly hair. They said they all had to have straight hair. We know they came in different shades and various of their hairs could be different things, including even we had hot combs and stuff, or our people did back in Egypt and Kemet and stuff like that. But hear what I'm saying, right? They taught those things and got so upset, persons like Napoleon and his men, when they got there expecting to see white all over the place, shot off the nose of the Sphinx and began to destroy the noses of every Egyptian there, because it was a dead giveaway and they were upset and frustrated, and they were told to keep it a secret. We know this because there was an artist who painted pictures of Kemet and came back and said so. And they tried to hide his report, but we've been able to read it. Right? So I say all that to tell you that just because we're all human beings doesn't mean everybody telling the truth. That's like saying that everybody who reads the Bible believes the same thing. Some of y'all are still hanging on to the name of Jesus. Jesus means half man, half Zeus. Right? But I'm trying to tell you, we signed up for this. Our people signed up for this because our people are some of the worst perpetrators of this. I'm talking about Israel now, the Negro, and some of the worst perpetrators of this because we're in the Balaam doctrine, which you're warned about in your Bible several times, which makes it a point to tell you, hey, do not try to please Yah and please man and what man can pay you at the same time, because then you have to come up with falsified doctrine. You have to come up with lies to make your so-called worship make sense, right? You have to come up with these weird pockets of thought process to try and tell everybody that you believe something that the Bible itself doesn't even support, right? You have to come up with stuff like, hey, we're all Yah's children. Somebody show me in the Bible. Now, watch this. Some of you are going to hear this, and I'm just talking about Israel, even though I am talking about Israel, but I'm not even talking about Israel yet, as far as in your Bible. Some of you are going to hear this and be upset, but you be upset. You won't be able to find it. Show me in the word where it says that we are all, everybody on the earth is a child of Yah. See, you made the mistake of thinking that because everybody came from the same creation, everybody's of the same lineage. And you're making the mistake of thinking that when I say that, I don't believe that one should be born again, meaning that all of us have to go through a spiritual rebirth no matter what your bloodline is physically. Your bloodline physically should have you tapped in through your soul into something that is spiritually correct, but many of us have not done so. That's why you have to be redeemed. But you will not find a scripture that says everybody is Yah's child. You've never found it. You've never seen it. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to tell anybody they're bad. I'm trying to tell you, you've never seen it. You've heard the wrong thing for so long. You've had people preach things that are wrong for so long that you have begun to believe these things that are incorrect. There is no scripture. There is no place in the Bible. There's no place in the Apocrypha that says everybody's Yah's child. But I'll go to Barashayat, since that's where we are. Genesis chapter 3. Adam and Eve, so-called Adam and Eve, really Adam at Ayazad, but Adam and Eve, Abba at Amma, of all humanity, sin. And everybody from that point is shaping in iniquity. And we got a curse on us. We got a few curses that come upon man and women specifically, but still, we all have curses that come, and we all are going to start missing the mark. We're shapen by these things that cause us to miss the mark, or that when we miss the mark, they cause the generations to miss the mark, to sin, right? And here's what it says. It says that Yah is going to put enmity between the children of Elohim and the children of the Satan, the children of the devil. Period. Be mad at me. Be frustrated. Be upset. But that means that there are human beings that are told to you. If you want to bring up Adam, it means that there are children that are Adam's children that are children of the devil. And there are children that are Adam's children that are children of the Most High. Salah. Be upset. But be upset at the lie. If you're upset at me, then you're upset at Yah. I don't tell you anything that's not his word. Be upset, but be upset at the Most High. I didn't tell you anything that's not his word. I didn't tell you that we should hate somebody because they're white. I told you should hate somebody because they're a child of the devil. And before somebody says, hate the sin and hate the sinner, we had to start correcting that even with ourselves, because we were saying the same rhetoric, and then we had to say, you know what, we got to stop saying it, because the scripture says that Yah hates sinners. Because a sinner doesn't mean that you sin one time. A sinner means that you've made up in your mind you're going to be on the devil's side and you're going to keep sinning no matter what. Period. On period. On period, poo. Right? Period. So the Most High hates sinners. That's why he has a place for them. That's why he hates, if he hates sin and you keep doing it over and over again, you don't think he's going to hate the vessel? If you're in a fight with somebody and somebody's got a gun, right? Wouldn't it be smart if you have an opportunity to take the gun out of that person's hands? Somebody would say guns don't off people than people. See, and some of you guys who are saying this, you know this. right? Guns don't off people. The person who decides to use the gun, whether they train on how to use it or not, is the person off somebody. So if the gun is the sin, the thing that takes your life, or is used as a sin, the sin being you misuse a gun, then you don't think the person who's responsible for firing off the gun is a sinner? Some of y'all even believe that you shouldn't allow anybody to have guns. So you don't believe you should allow anybody to have guns. The person that wants to use the gun on you, should you not believe that they're bad too? Use the same logic. How you doing, Elder Intelligent? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? Homologia, that logic. Sin is the forsaking of the law, right? Sin is the missing of the mark. Sin is, right, the law is there to give rights. The law doesn't give rights, excuse me. The law protects rights. So if you on purpose would look at the law and say, I'm going to go an extra mile to figure out how to be outside the law, we should look at you some kind of way. Even when we talk about stuff like racism and stuff, because that's why people have a problem, especially usually as persons of us. And when I say of us, I mean of us, right? Of me included, right? That are usually so-called mixed race. Have a problem having a conversation about the fact that somebody lied to us and told us that nationality has to do with your skin color. And that's why you guys are trying to say skin color doesn't matter, right? Because you know that you've been taught that white, black, yellow, red, ebony, mahogany, palm, whatever, right? Ruddy, red. You've been taught all these different things of different nations. And you don't know how nationality works. We signed up for this. Our ancestors. How you doing, Sister Taylor? Our ancestors signed up for this when it was two sisters couldn't get it together. Our ancestors signed up for this when Ishmael and Isaac are pitted against each other. Our ancestors signed up for this when Jacob versus Esau. Our ancestors signed up for this when Abraham was told one nation should come out of you and Sarah, and they tried to figure out how to make sure that the nation came out of somebody else. Our ancestors signed up for this when Isaac saw Jacob and couldn't see anything in him because the promise was too plain for him. He wanted to make sure that he had a manly, burly man. And we're still perpetrating, we're still providing the same illogic. It is illogical because it's not Yah's logic. Right? But we signed up for this. And so if we signed up for this, when you sign up for a contract, if you're going to get out the contract, there's one of two ways. One of a few ways. But I'm going to focus on one because it's the one that we benefit from if we make righteous decisions. The contract that we have, right, we tore up when Adam decided and Iazar decided they no longer needed the Most High and they could do things on their own and they could be on the same level and they could make decisions without him and it wouldn't affect anything or it would make things better. They ripped up the covenant. They ripped up the contract. They ripped up the contract and said that you could live eternal life in peace and never have to experience what happens when you miss the mark or sin. Never have to experience what happens when you break down. But so now there's a contract that we ripped up. And when you enter into sin, there's two things that happen. See, we don't think about this, but when you tear up that contract, that covenant, when we tore that up, we had to sign another contract. You signed a contract with the devil. That's why sin is so crucial. Every time you sin, you're trying to enter back into contract with the devil. This is why repentance is necessary, because there's a new thing that happened to bring back the validity of the old contract. There's only two. There's a contract with hell. There's a contract with heaven. There's a contract with the devil. There's a contract with the Most High. There's only two contracts that you're out here signing. Only one lineage has the right into the contract with the Most High. All the other lineages, whatever you want to call yourself, they end up at the step of the Satan. And you'll be allowed to go where he's going. Everybody got a choice. Everybody got free will. Everybody can get these hands, the Most High's hands. A lot of y'all have signed up for a fight that you can't win, but you keep on trying to make excuses as to why you should keep fighting that fight. You do, right? See, the thing with Leah and Rachel that's so crazy is that Jacob was already willing to work 7 years for Rachel. When he saw Rachel, he kissed her, even though it was more so out of excitement for being able to finally realize that he found the people he was looking for, because this was the family he was going to marry into. But he, when you deal with that, it was already set. Jacob had already got the promise. He already had the lineage, right? He was doing the will of his father. He had the birthright. He had the blessing, and he was doing what he was charged to do. Laban saw this, and Laban, what do we call it? Or nowadays, energy vampires. Laban, their father, was an energy vampire. He saw the blessing on Jacob and made Jacob work 7 years. But Jacob loved Rachel so much. But then he saw the blessing on Jacob and said, you know what, Jacob, you done did too well. I need to get 7 more. TikTok keeps freezing. Yeah, I thought that might be a problem. I don't know. Is TikTok freezing? Because it's telling me it's green. I'm saying that it's yellow. But if it's free, is it freezing? How many can you guys real quick on TikTok? I'm sorry, and YouTube, just let me know if it's working fine for you guys too. But on TikTok, is it freezing? How many persons are experiencing that TikTok is freezing? Yes, it is. Okay, so it's telling me y'all have a streak signal. I will try to switch to something else. I'll have to move. So y'all give me a second. I'll try to switch to something else. If that doesn't work, um, I really don't know what to tell you. Tell us. Maybe come over to YouTube. I don't know, but give me a second. I'll try to move everything open a bit. See if I can get a better signal for you. I will try. This gonna be about the best I can do. Y'all give me a second. Excuse me, YouTube family. Get y'all over here too. Clear channel on YouTube. Okay, thank you for that. Give me a second. Let's see if we move over here. If TikTok's better. So far, I mean, I know I haven't been speaking, but so far, have you guys glitched or? Well, I guess you can't tell if it's freezing. I'm back clear now. Okay. All right. Hold on one second. All right. Hopefully, this will work better over here for you all. And somebody's gonna have to remind me where I left off, because I do not recall. I do not recall where I left off. Oh, I think I do. Hold on. We were talking about Laban, Leah, Rachel. We signed up for this, I believe, right? And Rachel and Leah and Laban all have to come into this agreement to where they're going to lie. And they're leeching off the person who carries the promise. This is ultimately what happens, is that they know that he has a promise on his life. And so they say, since he has this great promise upon his life, we'll get every single piece of work we can out of him. And this is why you got to recognize who you are as a nation. And when you recognize the blessing, the birthright that's upon your life, there are many who are trying their best to get you to keep lining up with those who would leech off of you. I'm going to just keep it a buck, right? Let's just keep it a buck. Let's keep it a thou wow, right? Let's keep it 100, as we would say. 100, as we would say, right? When you carry a promise on you, when your people carry a promise on you, this is what Balaam doctrine started with. When your people can destroy others by simply their existence, or them sowing into you still or not. How you doing, Sister Snack? And if Brother Gordon's there, and if the babies are watching, right? Your people are amazing and cause so much greatness and are great and have so much greatness in them and in us that there are many who freak out whenever you start to come into your greatness. Oh, my greatness. See, if we ever realized the power that we have, we would also start looking over our shoulders, son. Because some of these relationships that you put on, and some of these persons that you're bowing down to, and some of these persons that you want to lift up, and some of these persons you want to pay into, and some of these persons you want to pay homage to, and all these different things or whatever, you got all these relationships, not realizing that there are many persons who come to simply say, what can this person do for me, right? We talked about the 3 C's before. The 3 C's have to deal with confidants, constituents, and comrades. Confidants, constituents, and comrades, right? And many of us don't know about the confidants, constituents, and comrades in our lives. See, a confidant is somebody that's for you. If you've never heard this before, the 3 C's: confidant, constituent, comrade. A confidant is somebody that's for you. So a confidant might not even like you, but they love you, right? A confidant is the type of person that you can't stand them, they can't stand you, and it's the middle of the night and you got a flat tire. I'm talking about my personal experience here. It's the middle of the night and you're like, man, I don't want to call this person because this person gonna come out and tell me off and this and that because I got a flat tire, and now they're gonna say, well, you know, you should have had this and you should have had a spare, and why don't you got your jack, and blah blah, why were you even riding on this thing? I don't feel like hearing this. But because they're a confidant and they're for me, they will get up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and they'll come see about your boy because they want to make sure that I get home and that I'm straight and that my vehicle doesn't get towed. We don't have to like each other, but they love me. And I realized when they do something like that, I need to back off on some of the stuff that I thought was bad, and maybe realize maybe they're trying to give me constructive criticism and they're not just trying to tear me down. But see, that's a confidant. After you have confidence, then you have what's called a constituent. Right? A confidant is for you. A constituent is what? A constituent is for what you are for. And thanks for being part of the community, Junior. See, a confidant is for you. A constituent is for what you are for. And a lot of times you will mistake, if you're not careful, a confidant and a constituent. Right? What you'll do is you'll say, oh, okay, a confidant, right? You think that a confidant's for you, and a constituent can be confused. But see, a constituent is not for you. They are for what you are for. This is why constituents sometimes will leave you, right? And you have to be ready for this. Constituents will leave you when they feel like they can get something quicker or faster or better. And by the way, nothing wrong with it, because not everybody's called to be with you for your whole life. So a constituent will see what you're doing, will go, you know what? I feel like even though this is righteous, blah, blah, right, but I might not have to build as fast, or I might not have to have as much on me, or I might not have to be accountable, I might not have to be da-da-da. I'll go ahead and go here, right? Here's the difference in your personal walk, right? If you've ever had a constituent, not a confidant. A constituent is somebody who will say things to you like this. See, a confidant might be like, man, you know what? I'll be over there. I'm bringing this. Man, I'm glad when we get together, but you know, I'm glad. Hopefully, this makes you feel better. This and that, right? That's a confidant. A constituent sounds like this: man, I love it when we get together. You make me feel great. You know, if I don't come by, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You this, you give me, you feed me. They're a constituent. They're for what you're for, and they'll uplift you as long as they get from you everything that they want, or everything's easy, or everything feels great. But the second that you say, hey, you might need to act righteous, or hey, I might need something from you, then all of a sudden the confidant begins to show some little, right? The confidant's cool, but when it's like, okay, I've really got to be about this person and nothing might come back. That's it. The confidant is the person who loves you. The constituent, rather, is the person you have to be careful of. See, there's a confidant, there's a constituent. They can be confused easily. And then a comrade. There are more comrades than there are constituents, and there are way more comrades than there are confidants. See, if you get one, look, to be honest, if you get one confidant your whole life, you're already doing something. If you get like 5 to 10 confidants your whole life, you are on another level. And I'm not saying, because even there's a such thing as confidant energy, right? Like I can't be everybody's confidant because I can't be around you all the time. So whenever I talk to you, though, I'm going to give you confidant energy. Whenever I'm doing something in our diaspora, I'm trying to give confidant energy, right? Because I'm for my diaspora, I'm for my people. But I have one wife. You know, I have my child, I have my house, I have my family, I have SOC. There's only so much confidant energy that I can give around, and I can only be a confidant to so many at the same time, right? So I can give you the best that I can, but as I was saying to somebody earlier, I have my own responsibilities at home. I have persons that I'm already a confidant with. So there's only a certain amount of being a confidant that I can be. I'm not the most high. That can be in all places, in all things, with all righteousness, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not him. So I've realized I can give confidant energy, but I can't be everybody's confidant, right? But then there's also constituents. Constituents are for you. So they're for you. They'll help you out the best they can. Matter of fact, they'll help you out sometimes the best they can within their humanity. But guess what? They got to take care of themselves. They got to take care of their families. And that's a constituent. Constituency helps. But then there's also comrades. Comrades are those who are not for you. They're not for what you are for. They are against what you are against. Some persons don't know the difference. How you doing, Sister Tia? All right? So there are persons that are not for you, confidants. There are persons that are not for what you are for, constituents, but they are against what you are against, comrades. And we're falling into the same trap that a lot of persons fell into last time when Trump was in office. I told persons to beware of this last time, and persons didn't want to hear. But you're about to fall into the same thing. See, a lot of you are comrades when it comes to Trump. Y'all don't like him. And so now what happens is it seems like so many people come together to be against him. But what happened last time when he left was as soon as he left office, everybody started fighting against each other. Persons who said they were with each other started putting each other in prison, right? Persons who said that they were with each other now all of a sudden couldn't stand each other, be a man against woman, all this different stuff, right? You had comrades. Some of the persons that you were with when Trump was there before, now you guys are against him when Trump's in office this time. Those are comrades. You were against the same person. Put it like this, right? Y'all seen this in the street? I'm not trying to speak ill of women. Not all women do this, but I guess men do this to a certain degree, but this is usually, or men do this differently. I guess I'll say we move differently when you see men do this, right? Let's say that you have somebody who's been in a relationship. They break up with somebody, right? So you break up with the person you were with, right? All of a sudden, that person that you were with gets with somebody else. For whatever reason, you get in a friendship with the person that the person you used to date with, right? So let's say there's a guy, right, that a woman used to date. She somehow, some way becomes friends with the person, right, that he's dating now, right? And so they become comrades eventually, because you got to have some kind of common ground. If you don't like him and she likes him, somebody gonna have to agree. And at some point, usually, sometimes it works the other way, where maybe you, the woman who got rid of the guy, start seeing the positive things in him again because you comrades. Now that turns on you, or she will leave. Now all of a sudden y'all become friends again. But once he's no longer in the picture, the friendship starts to erode. You know why the friendship starts to erode? Because you no longer have a common enemy that brings you guys together. Once he's no longer in the picture, what's the point of the friendship? And this is happening with Trump now. Everybody who's trying to be Republican, Democrat, right? All these persons becoming Democrats because everybody's got to be anti-Trump. And as soon as Trump's gone again, right? Or until your country changes, who knows, right? But I would say until Trump, at least as far as I see it, doesn't mean this is what I'm saying is going to happen. I'm just saying, as far as I see it, when Trump's gone again, what's going to happen? You're going to go back to being enemies, or you're just not going to have anything to do with the person. A lot of us have a lot of comrades. A lot of you have a lot of comrades through your whole life. You had comrades when you were on the football team. They were your comrades. You're not on the football team anymore. Maybe you talk to the person, maybe you don't. You still talk to the same persons you played Pee Wee football with. You still talk to the same persons that you played, you played in college with, or you played in high school with. Some of y'all got to semi-pro or professional level. You still playing with the same persons. You still talk to everybody you were in the military with. They were our comrades. How you doing, Sister Shirley? How you doing, Bogwan Audrey? How you doing, Jay? I have a lot of comrades. I don't talk to all of them the same. Matter of fact, I tried to. Once I left the military earlier than them and had a difference of opinion and different thought process on how stuff was supposed to work, they still got to be engaged in it. I'm not. At some point, we can't be We're not comrades anymore. So what happens? Eventually we stop talking to each other. You know, eventually I get you up a little Facebook friend list because I don't keep Facebook friends and all that stuff if we're not together or we're not rolling the same way or if we have nothing in common. Just you being on there just for the sake of me saying I got a friend or I can look at your stuff from time to time. And if I try to comment on it, you won't even respond. Not trying to be petty or anything. I'm just saying it's a waste of time. You see what I'm saying? A lot of persons were comrades. When you were against the same thing, you were cool with each other. But now that you don't have the same enemy, you don't talk to them. Constituents, hey, you can get me to a certain level, but once you get me to a certain level, okay, I'll find another way to do it. Confidants, though, are for you. So I say all that to say this. Leah and Rachel, had they been righteous, Laban, had he been righteous, Jacob came in as a confidant. And he thought everybody that was there was a confidant, that they were into him, that they loved him. And there's something to be said for this. Because Jacob continues to love Leah to the day that she dies, even though he never Rachel, to the day that she dies. He never really shows true love. I mean, he shows love to Leah, but he definitely doesn't like her. Right? And he fell in love with an idea, with a family. He was sent by his father. He had a charge. He did what his father asked him to do, but he didn't look at all the extenuating circumstances. There could have been somebody else he could have found. But the first person, hear what I'm saying. See, you signed up for this. It's the theme for today. The first person that he saw that was of the family, the first person that had any kind of beauty, he said, okay, cool. This must be what I'm supposed to do. And he thought that everybody would be where he was. He was sent here for this. Jacob, once again, so trusting, gets extremely drunk, can't even read his surroundings anymore, falls asleep, and they put Leah in there. And then the same person that he realizes he can't trust. He's not going to get rid of Leah. He's not going to divorce her. But then he says, okay, I'll be unrighteous. I'll make a decision to be unrighteous and work 7 more years so I can have 2 wives. Not a wife after one, not divorced, no. I'm going to have 2 wives. I walk around with 2 just so I can get what I want. And this wife still has not been honorable. She's really not. See, you sent somebody back to your people and you thought just because these people, once again, were born of your family, this must be the ones because you found a few people of your people. You found a few family members and said they must all be on the same page. See, be careful what you're signing up for. You hear what I'm saying, beloved? Right? Be careful what you're signing up for. We sign up for a lot of abuse, abnormal usage. Be careful what you're signing up for. We sign up for a lot of abuse. Be careful what you're signing up for. Also, too, by the way, those who are signing up for this, whether you're coming back into things, remembrance, whether you're being grafted in, right, becoming part of the nation, becoming part of the kingdom, becoming part of the Barashayat. Now, here's another thing that we got to have honest dialogue about, beloved. Right? We got to have some honest dialogue about. Be careful what you're signing up for and know what you're signing up for. Because you're trying to bring kingdom. You're trying to bring a nation together. You're trying to create nationality. You're trying to separate from the world. And you're trying to leave an opportunity for those who are in the remnant to join Israel. So that way we might become a nation properly, the way that we were supposed to be. And this is not for everybody. Now, I say all that because that means that there are those in the world who need to get out of the world and come into the kingdom. Is that a correct statement, by the way? I just want to make sure we're in agreement. Is that a correct statement when I just said? Because what I'm about to say is going to launch off of that. We are supposed to create space so that those in the world can come into the kingdom. Is that correct? If there's anybody who thinks that's incorrect, we gotta deal with that. At least a little bit. And you gotta and not just for the sake of argument. Right. We're in the world, not of it. So our goal is to make sure that persons who are walking around who would see us in the world would realize they can exist out of it. Or not, right? Simultaneously can be in something and not of it. All right. Now I say that because what that means is that means that the system can't be the same. Somebody can't just come from the world and say, well, I used to do this in the church, and so I'm just going to say Yahashua instead of Jesus, and therefore now I'm out of the world. I'm going to say that again. All right. I can't just say, okay, in the church we used to do boom, 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 boom. So I'm gonna do this everything the same that I did in the church. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Yahashua now, Yeshua now, Yahushua now, Yahweh now, right? And everything's fine. I'm gonna say Yahweh now. I'm gonna say Yahweh. I'm gonna say Yahuwah, right? I'm going to speak the same language that those who I know that are not us speak. I'm going to speak the same dialects. I'm going to use the same writings that they say are Paleo Hebrew. I'm going to use the same ones. But then say, but I do it for Yeshua now. I'm going to use this. I need you to comprehend this. I'm going to use modern Hebrew, which is against the will of Yah because we're not supposed to change one jot or tittle. But I'm going to say at least it's Hebrew and it's not regular. But even though it's been changed, I'll go ahead. Matter of fact, we do some things that are too far to the other end. Because the church did it, I won't do it, even if when the church did it, they actually did it because the Bible said. Remember, half truth, whole lie. But if it's a half truth, look for the things that are true. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah, some people believe in magic, not God's will. Yeah, right. Recognizing what you should follow, the Torah, and following. And yeah, amen. Recognizing what you should follow and following it is not the same thing. Right? Your life should change. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, by the way, you got to know Romans 1 before we get there. You got to know Romans 1 to Romans 11. We have a whole series called The Roman Road. But if you go down the Roman road, just real quick, Romans chapter 1, verse 11, Paul says that I wrote this that you might be established. Right? Romans chapter 2 begins to talk about law. Romans chapter 3, verse 1 and 2 says we have an advantage because of the circumcision. And because of, and he's not just talking about the circumcision of the heart. He's saying those who are lawful, legally, lawfully circumcised, those who are Israel and those that are Judah, we have an advantage because we had all the prophecies and the prophets themselves in our culture. We should have an advantage. Romans 3:23 still says, though, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Elohim. Romans chapter 4 begins to talk about law again, but Romans chapter 5 begins to say stuff like, but even with all the stuff that's going on, we glory in tribulation. Right? We have hope, and it makes us not ashamed. We've gone through some things as a people, but we still recognize who Yah is, and we still hope in his word and in his law. Therefore, Romans chapter 5, verse 8, not too far behind it, comes and says that Yahashua commendeth. Out of that mindset, out of that law, he commendeth or recommended his love, right? This is what it says in Romans chapter 5, verse 8. Check it out. He commendeth his love, that while we were yet sinners, right, he died for us. While even we're out of pocket and getting into everybody else's stuff. While we got out of pocket so much that according to Romans chapter 9, the end of it, the last two verses of Romans 9, it tells you that when the Messiah showed up, he was a stumbling stone of offense because we had started following so much foolishness that we were offended by the Messiah. We were offended by the word, which means we were offended by the law. But he came to give us the law correctly. See, this is the thing that people got to get out of pocket on. They want you to believe that the law is what caused Israel to be against Yahashua. Hear me, beloved. They want you and I to believe that it was the law that caused us to say we don't want the Messiah. And so because the law just helped us to not, this is what they teach. This is ultimately what they're teaching you, is that the law and those who follow the law because they were blinded by the law, couldn't see the Messiah. But when the Messiah came, he started calling people out. Why? Because they didn't follow the law. Is that a true statement? Is that a true statement? See, persons get upset when you tell the truth. Thank you for the love, bro. Right? How you doing, Q-Love? How you doing? I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Sargon Yakal? Times 3? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Please forgive me. Right? Everybody coming on? See, you got to recognize. Hear me, beloved. How you doing, Minister Samaya LeRae? Once again, thank you for the word, right? They teach you that it is, we were blinded as a people by the law and we couldn't see the Messiah, but the Messiah came down and started telling persons who said they were following the law that they were not, and called them out publicly for doing so in front of us, in front of our people. How you doing, Sister Sabria? In front of the followers of Yah. And so when they started calling out our people, our leaders got upset that we were coming into reality. Watch this. Let me help somebody out. Let's go to our sweet spot. Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5, starting right there at verse 3. And thank you for the love. You ready? Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. This is the Sermon on the Mount. Now, he had already been preaching. So people who say this is his first sermon, this is not true, because Matthew chapter 4 tells you that he was already preaching, right? And teaching, and was known not just in Israel, but all over the place. That being said, though, Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, the Sermon on the Mount. When you get there, what does it start off with? Somebody help me in the chat if you know what it starts off with. What's the first thing that it says about Barak in the Beatitudes? Barak is who? Blessed or who? Blessed are whom? Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. You can cheat if you need to, right? Right? Let me help you. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. It says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Hallelujah. Blessed, how you doing, Sister Caldwell? Blessed are the poor in spirit. What does that mean? And by the way, it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to them. What is that even saying? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who don't even know righteousness because they're not being taught. Blessed are those, you got to realize what's going on with the religious leaders at that time, to where they're saying if you're not a Levite, then you can't be righteous anyway. If you're not like us, you can't be right. If you don't make enough money, you're not righteous. Some of the Pharisees have begun to teach that that heaven is not even an afterthought. Heaven is only on earth. So when we pass away, they've started to teach that some of them have started to teach when we pass away, there is no heaven. They've changed up everything about the law and the word. So Yehoshua didn't come to speak against the law. He came that it might be established. If you don't believe that, by the way, let's fast forward some. Matthew chapter 5, verses 10 to 12. Blessed are ye when men speak evil against you and say all manner of evil against you and rebuke you and say all this stuff falsely for my name's sake. When persons say stuff against you falsely for his name's sake, if I'm doing what the word of Yah says, in other words, if you're doing what the word of Yah says, and somebody will come against you, then it says stuff falsely, it says rejoice and be exceeding glad. Why should I be glad? Why should I rejoice? Which means to leap over and over again. Why should I be happy when people are saying all manner of evil against me and I'm not doing anything unrighteous? It's because they did the same thing to the prophets that came before us. This is what he's dealing with. After this, in verses 13 through 16, he says that you are the light of the world, you're a city set on the hill, you're an example, all the great things. Then verse 17 through 20, what does he do? He goes right back into the law. He says, go right back into the law. This is who will be barak. This is who will be blessed. These are those who Abraham, seed of Abraham, right? Those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. How do you receive this birthright? How do you receive this blessing? What is the charge that comes with it? Well, it says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 20, it says, you must recognize what? Matthew 5:17 says, Yehoshua says, I came not to destroy the law or the prophets. He's saying I didn't come to destroy them. He's saying I came that the law, that it might be fulfilled. That doesn't mean to end. It means to be put into effect. If you don't put the law into effect, you're not following Christ. I didn't say if you can recite law. If you can't put it into effect. What is the effect, by the way? How is this changing person's lives? What kind of community is this causing? How has this allowed persons to experience the things that they would have never experienced? How you doing, positive energy? Right? What has it, whoever you are under, whatever unit you're part of, whatever group, whatever congregation, whatever assembly, right, whatever camp, whatever, what are they doing to affect positively the life? What are they doing to make sure that you don't eat the same? What are they doing to make sure that your children have friends in the truth And now that these children know that there's other children that believe what they believe, so that they don't have to keep going to the same school system and feeling like they're getting jacked up by stuff, or feel like, hey, you know what, if I don't roll with y'all, I won't have any friends. What is your community doing? What is your diaspora doing? What are you doing to make sure that persons feel safe? And if anything comes that causes it not to feel safe, what are you doing to fight for safety? And if you're not in a safe place or in a safe zone, what are you doing to make sure that you fight for it so that every day it becomes safe? Because just because we proclaim it to be a safe place, because Yah, through Holy Spirit, has told us, yes, this is a safe place this year, doesn't mean that we just go walk in and do no works. What are you working towards to ensure that this is a safe place? What are you giving? Yes, resources included. Time is a resource too. Your talent is a resource too. Your effort, your energy. Or are you that energy vampire that we talked about earlier, where we keep looking and we keep seeing, and we're like, man, like this person come across this and that, and they're there for this, they're there to get, pull. But when it's like, okay, it's time to lift. It's time to exhort. It's time to encourage. It's time to deal with the issue, not run from it. It's time to stand on business. It's time to say, okay, this and that or whatever. It's time to keep commitments, including myself. It's time to be on time. He says that the law give life. Sure, because anything that the king decrees is law. You're talking about just Mosaic law only, not realizing that's part of many laws. Anything that the king says is law. So the law doesn't start with Mosaic law. The Mosaic law is under the law, right? Like there's kingdom law, there's natural law, there's universal law. There's common law, right? There's law of equity. There's public law, there's private law, but they're under substantive law. And if you don't know how substantive law works, you'll never comprehend how natural law works. And if you don't know how natural law works, you'll never comprehend how universal law works. These are things that are written there for you in law books all over the place. So yes, when the king speaks, it's law. This is why when the king says, let there be light, that's law. See, we don't look at law correctly because we don't like kingdom. We don't like nationality. We're not trying to build a nation. We're trying to build a place that we think is safe for us to hide in, but not a safe place to where we can walk boldly in, making sure that the culture and the ways and the truth and the statutes of the Most High are always said. Right? There is no life that exists outside of law. Does a blade of grass exist without a seed? Does any person who's listening to me exist without a seed or an egg or a garden, womb? Can you continue to be in existence without oxygen? How much of your food came into existence without the sun? If plant life ever decided to stop following law, if it couldn't even make that decision, that's debatable, I guess. But if the plants ever decided to not follow the law, then how much would you eat? If bees ever decided, you know what, they don't appreciate us, they're killing us off, and they decided to stop following the law, how many flowers would you see? If the butterfly said, you know what, we're just gonna stay caterpillars forever, we're not worried about this whole thing because they just living off us, going from place to place and getting all this nectar and pollen. That's all law. See, our mistake, once again, that's why we got to go back to beginning, Barashayat. Your mistake is thinking that Mosaic law is all we're talking about when we're saying law. Mosaic law is part of the law. We're not dismissing it. Don't get it twisted. Anything our Malachi, anything our king says is law. And until we get that, who are we really? This is why we don't comprehend who we are as Malachi and Malachi, or as the female and male royalty that we've been called to be. We don't comprehend who we are, because if we did, then we would recognize that law needs to be in our house, because law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. You're right. See, watch this. Yah said you should have life. When he said that, not only did he give you life, but he protected it because he said it. Whatever he said, he must protect. My greatness. Come on, Holy Spirit. Woo, I never heard that before. All right, look, sorry. Let me get myself together. Right? Whatever he says, he's got to protect it. That's why you live by every word that utters out of his mouth, because whatever he says, he's got to protect. If he didn't speak it, he can't protect it, or he's not guaranteed to protect it. So law doesn't give rights, it protects rights. If he speaks it, it must be. See, watch this. That's why you have to be careful. Some of you have tried to give life to businesses, and then you say, y'all bless it after the fact. But if y'all didn't speak that business into existence, he's under no obligation to protect it because it's not his law. See, you got to get this thing. The law is helping you. You don't recognize. That's why we look for Yah to speak, Yahashua to speak, Levach HaKodash to speak, Alacham to speak, right? His servants to speak, his prophets to speak, Kohelets to speak, Marach to speak, the priests, the Levites, right? We're looking for evidence that it comes through the proper chain of command because once again, it's got to be in his will. If it's in his will, then it's got to be something that goes through lineage. If it's lineage based, then it's something that gives you birthright. If it's birthright, then the birthright comes through the blessing comes through him. If it's not his blessing, his will, his lineage, his birthright, then it's not his blessing. And what you do is you receive blessings from others, right? You accept it from the beginning. You don't think about what persons are doing to you through this. And therefore, since you don't do this stuff, you're not considering his blessing. And even if you receive his blessing, guess what? Number 5 is you got to receive the charge that comes with it. Hey, I'll give you 5 talents. That's 1,000 pounds of gold. Turn it into a ton of gold. I charge you, right? I'll give you 2 talents. That's 400 pounds of gold. Turn it into 800 pounds. I charge you. Hey, I'll give you 1 talent. That's 200 pounds of gold. Turn it into 200 or turn it into 400. Wait a minute. I got back, and all you did was bury it underground, and then said that you were afraid of what I would say because you know that I want to see growth. I want to see return on my investment. And I taught you all these things because if you're my servant and I leave you alone, I'm teaching you how my house works as the master of the house, as the master of the family, right? So you already know how this works to increase me. And when you increase me, you increase us. And I came back and you didn't even have the sense. Look, it took you more effort to bury 200 pounds of gold and have to keep watching over it to see if it was okay than it would have you just going ahead and give it to somebody so that I could have made money off the interest. You don't recognize, I'm building a kingdom, bruh. And yes, you're my servant, but as my servant, I just gave you 200 pounds of gold. I taught you how to do it. I didn't give you the same assignment as the one with 1,000 pounds of gold. I didn't give you the same assignment as the one with 400. I gave you 200. And you were afraid to do what I taught everybody, and I gave you a lesser assignment. You know what? Since I can trust you with the lesser assignment, have that lesser assignment taken from him and give it to the person that took 1,000 pounds and made it a ton, made it 2,000 pounds, because he's going to do what he's supposed to do. And then he says something that astounds the people, but it's the truth. He says, hey, those who don't have will have less, and those who have will have more. And they didn't get, and they were astounded, and we're astounded for a different reason, but you missed the context, right? Those who were given less and could have doubled up. Look, 200 pounds, if somebody gave you 200 pounds of gold today, it would change your life. Real talk. If somebody came to you with 200 pounds of gold in any form, it would change your life. If somebody gave you 200 pounds of gold that have been tempted and cured and purified, it would change your life. Imagine now you take the 200 and you follow what Yah says, and you invest, and you tithe, and you give, and you create business, and you go to the banks, and you do what you're supposed to do, and it becomes 400 pounds of gold. If 200 changed your life, what would 400 do? And here's the wild part. See, we also missed this. To the person who took 1,000 pounds and made it 2,000 pounds, he said, hey, you know what? You did what you were supposed to do. You honored me. You honored the process. This is yours. Do with it what you will. I didn't give you 1,000 pounds of gold only to make me something. If you made me something, you made yourself something. Keep it. You did everything I said to do with it. It's yours anyways. I don't need the gold. I gave you the gold to see if you would be faithful. And because you were faithful, I say it's yours. Hey, 400 pounds of gold. You made it 800 pounds. You know what? You did everything I told you to do. You were awesome. You were faithful. Keep it. I didn't give you the 400 pounds because I needed you to make 400 more. I gave it to you because it's mine to give. I wanted to see if you would be faithful. But I gave you 200 and you were afraid. See, and this is something that's crazy because a lot of persons who have less A lot of times they're worried about it. But it's like when somebody says, I can't afford to give to my community. I can't afford to give to something else outside of myself. I can't even afford to pay my bills. If you can't afford to pay your bills, then you can't afford to pay your bills even if you give. I'm trying to help somebody. Look, we was in D.C. Y'all saw the nice part of D.C. Those who were in D.C., y'all saw the nice, manicured, come and spend time and see stuff for free off of taxpayers' dollars and all that. Y'all got to see the nice hotels. Even Silver Spring, even though, it's a little rough around some of the edges, it's a nicer place than many places. Look, if y'all really want to go to where Pastor Kofi was living, right? Even when I was homeless in the nice spot. I ain't go to the best spot, right? I came through there. But if you want to see where some of the SOC started as far as in the DC part to serve OC of DC stuff that y'all see pop up on some of these hashtags, if you want to go there, we got to go to Southeast. We got to go to certain parts of Northeast, right? Some of y'all, if you from there, we got to go do some of Benton Road, right? We got to go where the A8 and the A2 and the A6 bus go. We got to go to Congress Heights Metro Station. Right? You don't know about that. We got to go to where the big chair is. I don't know if the big chair is still there, but if you know about the big chair, we got to go there. Anaconda. Right? That same place. Look, those of you who were with us and everybody went to see that MLK, the MLK monument, right? If you look at all that water there, is disgusting. It looks nice on the surface, but you really don't want to eat out there. You don't want to drink out there, right? But if you look across, you'll see some poverty if you look close. We was in a nice area, but you want to go to those places, and y'all said, hey, Kofi, you got to go there, and you got to be there. And I had to become friends with some of the gangsters over there so that when I would go through there, I'd be like, yo, we coming through. Look out for us. We had to serve the community to the point to where, yo, we coming through. Look out for us. I ain't got nothing for it or whatever. I ain't bringing nothing on me like that. I'm coming to give some food out. And they would look out for it because we were out there. We were knocking on their doors. They were showing up to services. They were showing up on the corner so they can get food too and stuff. We were taking care of their families, even if they didn't become SOC, but they saw that we were trying to invest. Right? And I learned, right, that there was a time where I was like, man, what can you really do with that? How can you really increase? All of us are poor. All of us are broke. But you know what? I was like, you know what? Yah's will says do this. And I learned that when you do that, you still increase and you increase others and the community takes care of each other. But you'll also discover that there are many persons who have a poverty mindset. By the way, there are persons with money that have poverty mindsets and they'll lose it overnight too. There are persons with poverty mindsets that you'll see in some of those places we didn't go to, like even where the Nationals play baseball. There's some poor places over there you should be careful about going around, including around the stadium, right? And some of those cats over there who are living in $3,000 a month spots, it's probably now $5,000 a month, who knows, because all stuff keeps increasing. $3,000 a month studio apartments. And I'm telling you right now, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're more afraid of some of the persons that are in Southeast DC. Right? I'm trying to tell you this. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to let you know that there are persons with a poverty mindset, and they won't invest in their community or invest in what the mass. Forget even SOC for a second. I know, I know. I love y'all. I love me. Hear what I'm saying though. The master has told us to build a nation. And a lot of us who need the nation built the most are the persons who will give the least because they're afraid of losing rather than just saying, if Yah said do it, it will increase. This is why, once again, we're not hanging on every word that Kofi says. And if you're looking for what my opinion is on something, you've come to the wrong place. It is not my responsibility to spew opinion. It is my responsibility to make sure that the word goes forth and that I live by every word that is uttered out of his mouth because every word he speaks is law. How do you get out of the contract you signed up for in the world that your parents signed you up for and they didn't even know? How do you get out of that? How do you get out of the contract that's affecting your babies and affecting their masculinity and affecting their femininity? And all of the ones who want to be feminine and get into a soft place are too hard to even enter into it. And all the ones that want to make sure that they feel more masculine and stop being emasculated don't even realize that they were emasculated by others before they even had the wife. How do we get out of this spot? You got to, as we talked about the contract earlier, we ripped up the contract of righteousness with Adam, but there was a second Adam. And he didn't rip up your contract of sin that your parents entered you into. Watch this. What he did was he purchased it. My greatness. Salah. Did somebody catch that? He didn't rip up your contract. Okay, for those of you that are into sports, right? Somebody might buy out the contract, right? They do this all the time. Somebody might buy out a contract of an older player that's not getting time. They buy out his contract, and then somebody else can come behind that now that contract is bought out, somebody has paid for the fact that you can't be what they thought you would be. Somebody buys that out. They allow that in the NBA. They allow it in the NFL to a certain extent. They allow it in baseball to a certain extent. You can buy out that old contract so that somebody might be able to pay you a new contract. Now, the new contract is on paper way less. Somebody might go for the league minimum. So somebody might buy out a contract where somebody's going to make $40 million this year, right? And your $40 million is paid for. And somebody else might come behind and say, okay, the league minimum is $2 million. I can pay, right? You've been in the game 15 years. You deserve at least $2 million by our union contract, our union discussions and debates and all that, and going through all these conversations, we were able to get you that. So the most I can pay you, or the least I can pay you, is $2 million. But you're not worth anything more than a $2 million player. But we love all the stuff that comes with you. But guess what? The person will take the $2 million contract. Why? Because somebody purchased the $40 million, meaning that the person is taking care of $40 million. They've been paid. So $2 million. In essence, when I bought the $2 million, when I signed up for the $2 million contract, it's okay because I really signed for $42 million, right? The contract that I'm entering into is only $2 million, but it's worth $42 million. Did somebody catch what I'm saying? I hope somebody's catching what I'm saying. I know if you're not a sports fan, maybe that's not making sense. I think it would make sense to everybody, right? But somebody purchases the old contract, right? And then says, okay, now that I've given you $40 million, you're going to be able to play on $2 million. You're really worth $42 million, right? Do the math. $2 million times what gets you $40 million? I'm paying you 20 times, really 11 times, what your value is by only paying you $2 million. I bought you out for $40 million. In other words, in sin, you were never going to be able to get to what it was. You were never going to be able to play that you were. Maybe somebody would even found a reason not to give you what was on the contract. But you know what? If we have a law that says that, hey, something can redeem you, that we can redeem the $40 million, even if, as far as the world is concerned, you're only worth the $2 million, and you'll walk around worth 11 times what you were worth. I hope that I pray that makes sense. That wasn't even something I had written down in my mental notes, but I pray that makes sense, right? Right? Because you didn't get paid for what you served, the $40 million. You actually got paid for what they thought you would serve or what they thought about you. See, and when it comes to sin, right, you was in the world, you was doing all this stuff, and what they thought about you made you relevant. But you become free. And Yah said, I will send you Hashfa Hamashah down. That I will make sure that what they thought about you and what was on paper and what you'll never even be able to become or what you thought your life might become without you, it will never be what they said it was. It will never be what you had in your head. It will never be what is fallible. But I'll give you the infallible, and it'll be as if you got the $2 million plus the $40 million. Why would I do that? Because I love you. I had to purchase your contract. I had to take your sin on. I took on the sin. I took on the debt that you owed. I took on the debt that the world was going to put you in. I took on the debt. I took on all the stuff that even if you got the $40 million, it was going to be bad for you. Some of y'all don't remember how bad Steve Nash, if you remember that basketball name, Steve Nash, he got his money on the way out, but man, did he look bad on the way out. Yeah. You know, there's a lot. Steve Nash is a baller. Don't get it twisted, but I'm saying, man, did he look bad on the way out? Limping around, injured with something new every single time, right? I know we don't want to talk about Kobe bad, especially because he had 60 points the last night. Kobe wasn't looking great his last 2-3 years either, right? His was a little different, though, because he's Kobe. But I'm just saying, right? Like, you were in the world, and you were messed up. And you had something coming your way because supposedly you deserved. But guess what? It was coming with some stuff that where it wasn't going to be a great ending for you. Right? Not all money is great money. Not all money is great money, man. Not all money is righteous. Not all money is clean. I've been offered a lot of stuff. Look, we could have been in a much different place if I'll be honest. I've been offered, a lot of y'all don't know this. From the time, some of you I've shared this with, some of you I haven't. I won't go into deep detail, but go back to 2018, 2019 when we were really blowing up and I was saying the same stuff, but I wasn't really doing SOC stuff as much as I was doing activism. And I was getting DMs and phone calls. There were KKK members. I'm not making it up. You can ask about it. Some of y'all know about it as well, right? I would get calls and DMs from KKK members who are the same members attached to stuff where, like, you know, NOI will get the same money as some of these persons that paid David Duke. And they were like, yo, you know, and this was when we were getting $1 million views on multiple videos. I was putting out 30, 40, 50 videos a day, right? Just on TikTok alone, let alone other platforms and stuff, right? And I'm here to tell you, they come to you and they say, yo, we agree with what you're saying. They were like, you should have your place to stay, we should have our place to stay. And they tell you straight up, like, there's people that you don't think would look out for you, that we would look out for you. Now, we never had further discussion, but in essence, I'm not a dummy. That pretty much means, like, hey, we'll get you where you want to go. We'll separate you. We'll lift your message up. You know, just don't deal with, you know, the white supremacy thing so much. Right? Now, I'm not saying that's the reason we don't get views by itself. There's other decisions I made, other things I decided to preach and teach, etc. It is what it is. But I'm trying to tell you, there's stuff out there. There's a lot of persons that we came up in the TikTok game together in. And I'm glad they making their stuff or whatever, but I know some of the stuff behind the scenes that they had to go ahead and take on. Even if I don't like everything, and we still brothers, right? T. Nathan Locust don't agree with everything I say. I don't agree with everything he says, if you know who I'm talking about. That being said, though, he made some decisions that got him locked behind bars. I got to respect it. Because I've seen some other cats that came up with us in the same group, and they sold out. I won't tell you who. At least not right now. I'm not led to. I've talked about some of them before, but I'm not led to at this moment. But I'm just telling you. Real talk. I have these phone numbers with cats. I still check on them. I still try to see if some of them are okay. But you got to see what you signed up for. Not all money that you get, not all these so-called blessings, they're not coming through the birthright. They're not great for you. Once again, we're not studying a text written by man-made deity. Yeah. You said, that David Duke's people try to pay me in rally, not all money is good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you've seen that. Yeah, people try to pay you in the rally, stuff like that. So I'm just trying to tell you, like, these things, they have to come through birthright. And Leah and Rachel had a whole thing that becomes a huge fight. When you read Genesis 30, you'll see that Leah basically is like, you try to take what's mine. You try to take my husband, or you want to take what's my birthright, blah, blah, this and that, or whatever. And the reality is both of y'all lied. You both signed up for nonsense. And so if we want to sign up for something that takes us out of this and reestablishes the righteousness of Israel and salvages us to where even what Jacob saw in his dream comes into fruition, and guess what? We got to deal with the fact that we're running around with a lot of foolishness. And so we got to sign up for righteousness. We have to sign up for it. You have to sign up for it. We're in Barashayat, the Genesis, right? You got to sign up for it. What did you sign up for? This is why Yehoshua speaks to us and he says, do you think, suppose ye, there's a supposition, lawful terminology. Suppose ye, do you think that I came? Do you think that my reason, my existence on earth, that why I manifested is that there would be peace? He said, I didn't come to bring peace on earth. He said, I came that there might be division. And once again, remember, this is not written to everybody. So he's not talking about division from the world. That should be a given. Hear that, beloved. When he says, I didn't come that there would be peace, he said, I came that there might be division. He didn't say, I came that there might be division between us and the world. That's been since Genesis 3. If you're not separate from the world, we already got a problem. If we walk into your assembly, into your church, and we see that American flag, we already got a problem. We see the American flag with the gold embroidery around it. You don't even know what that is. We already got a problem. If we walking in and it's Christmas and you having a Christmas Day service and Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 1-5 already told you know about that, you already got a problem, right? And even if you don't like my saying it, it's the truth. If you won't research it and look at it and say, hey, we're making these trees idols. We're putting this before Yah. We already got a problem. This is why you got to admit who you are, right? Those of you, and I love all of us. I'm saying this as out of love. Yes, Deuteronomy 28:15-68. That is something that determines who we are. We should be able to see it, read it, look at it, proclaim it, study it, and make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes and we come out of those generational curses. Yes, to all of that. That being said, don't forget to study Genesis. Deuteronomy. Sorry. Don't forget to study Deuteronomy 28 verses 1-14 and stay in those blessings. You know, that barak, that's supposed to be upon you. Where are your sheep and your goat and your ox? Where is your city that you walk out and you bless when you go out and you're blessed when you come in? Jeremiah 29, before you get to verse 11, it says before that, even in the land of your captivity, where are your homes? Why are you building homes for everybody else? That's in the land of your captivity. We're in the land of our captivity, so there's certain things we got to do, and we're trying to come out of them slowly. That being said, even in the land of your captivity, where is your house? Where's your house built by your hands? Where's your wife? Why is it that you keep raising daughters and your sons can never be with your daughters? That's scripture. Is that scripture? Jeremiah chapter 29, start reading around verse 3. Don't just skip down to verse 11. Start reading down through verse 3. You get to verse 4 or 5. Start seeing what it says you're supposed to do right now. It says right now, in the land of your captivity, not when you're free. Where are your works that show that you have faith? I'm not saying you can't have money issues, right? But then fine, if you people in our community have money issues, do we have anything that the poor can glean from? For the poor will be with us how long? How long shall the poor be with you? How long will people have issues? How long will persons be trying to get off the street in our community? How long? Can anybody tell me how long does the Bible say? Always. Come on, big brother. The poor will be with you always. So that means that the work should be something that we're doing because we know we're going to have to let people glean from something. But nobody has anything to glean from anything because we're not even trying to make sure we set up something to feed the poor. By the way, that's one of the things Yahashua the Messiah himself says. He says when he says there'll be many people who will say Lord, Lord, and he ain't right, and that ain't gonna mean nothing to him, right? He said there are gonna be many persons, right, who say Lord, Lord, and are so excited to get into heaven. He's gonna say, get away from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew ye. He says you got to start looking at feeding who. And a part of this nobody wants to talk about in context, for real, a part of that scripture has to do with who you feed. Because, you know, we'll go out, feed the children, and let's go to the rally, and let's make sure that the school system has all these different products and stuff. You know, in the school system, let's make sure, and you know how that works too. They'll tell you get all that stuff for your child, get the tissues and get the, the hand sanitizers and get the glue and get this and that. And then, you know, but we don't have nothing for children in our community. Right? Like that's a curse that passes down, right? Just go back. Talk to some of your parents. Some of your parents were the parents that did this or were alive and saw their parents do this to them. Talk to some of your parents on how you would go and your mom would be working in somebody's house, or your dad would be somebody's butler, your mom would be somebody's maid, and all the stuff was taken care of for other children. But then in our communities, they get home and they would yell at you, fuss at you, cuss you out, and they had nothing for you. But somebody else's children were eating. As a matter of fact, go back a generation before that, and you'll discover, and it still happens today for real, right? How you do? Go to D.C., go to Southeast, go to D.C., matter of fact, go to the rich places, go to Northwest, go to the rich Jewish affluent areas in Baltimore, places like this. I ain't trying to be racist. I'm trying to tell you what it is. Go to some of these places. You want to see some of this? How you doing, Sister Kimberly? Right? We used the microphones and stuff, by the way, yesterday, so I'm using them more and more. I don't know if you've been catching it or not, but yeah. So, but go, and how you doing? It's a matter of time. But go back, right? To those times, you'll find there's a time where our women would go out and they would breastfeed babies, and then their babies would be on formula. They breastfeed them when they got back. Maybe they tried to put some bottles in some places that somebody could use later on. But they would breastfeed other babies before they breastfeed their own. Right? Now, I'm not trying to make this a white-black thing. I'm talking about nationality. We are still in the mindset as a nation to where we still will feed others from our women's bosom. We'll still be of the Abraham where, you know what? I did something wrong. We'll put our women out there, right? We'll put our women on, right? Just go ahead, put our women out there, right? And let them protect us, even if somebody would take advantage of our women. At least we're protected. It's still a curse. How you doing, John? I ain't lost nothing but people like you, right? You hear what I'm saying? Still, this mindset in our community, still the curse out there. Still the curse of, hey, just because you're a man doesn't mean you should preach the word. Y'all will preach and use me the same way. And then try to figure out why leprosy is happening and you falling apart. Still the same curse, where men don't need women and women don't need men. Still the same curses. This, unfortunately, our people signed us up for this. How do we get out of it? We got to get back to righteousness and realize that Yah said that if we would be born again, Yahashua said if we would be born again, and realize he's been lifted up and he's here to draw the poison out, he will draw all men. Anybody that's supposed to be of us are going to be drawn to him as the poison is drawn out of them. Because the tree that we are, whether we are original, cut off and put back, graft in, we're wild olives, and now we're of the olive that's Israel, whatever. It's got to be pure. It's got to be clean. So this is the cleaning part of our nation. Back to Leah and Rachel. And by the way, that means there's competition, because now there's other women that had to get into it. See how we affect others around us? So you got to realize the earth. Once again, Romans chapter 8, I'll say verses. This is 2 of our affirmations. This is affirmation number 3 and number 4 for us. We have 5 or 6 affirmations, in Romans chapter 8. But Romans chapter 8, affirmation 3 and affirmation 4. Maybe we'll go over our affirmations tonight. Y'all want to do the affirmations tonight? We haven't done the affirmations in a while. We got a lot of persons who are new. Maybe we'll do the affirmations tonight. I'll pray about it, right? But Romans chapter 8, verse 18, and Romans chapter 8, verse 19, back to back. They say this. Romans chapter 8, verse 18 says, the suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us. Right? Romans chapter 8, verse 19 says, the creature is waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. You put that together, and what it says is that what we choose or choose to go through or suffer through, is not even compared to what is already in us and is ready to be manifested. And there are others that are created that are waiting for that to come out of us, that they might know how to live. That's ultimately what that's talking about. How you doing, Henry? How you doing, King? Is it King Messenger? How you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. Ultimately, that's what those 2 back-to-back mean. Romans 8:18, Romans 8:19. Why is that important? Why is that crucial for us? Why should we comprehend? Why should we recognize that? Is there any reason for that? Well, the reason that is crucial for us to recognize is that means, therefore, if we don't realize our importance, then we won't realize that the world doesn't get better until you get better, or those who are in the world, because the world's going to get worse, for real. The world is supposed to get better at being evil. We're supposed to get better at being righteous, right? And so many persons have no reason to come out of the world if they think that you're no different than them. Salah. Did you hear me, beloved? I hope you got that. I'll say it again. The world has no reason to come out of this, because the word world in the Greek is talking about the cosmos with a K, system. So they have no reason to come out of their system if they look at you and they see nothing different. So if you walk around and say, well, you know, it's just a system, we got to do this, we got to do the same stuff, but you know, on Sunday we'll worship. Or hey, you know, I'm going to go into the same places, you know, I'm still going to cut my hair, I'm still going to get the dude everybody wants, I'm still going to be afraid of my features, I'm still going to carve myself up, I'm still going to get the BBL, I'm still going to get away from different things and all this stuff. You know, I'm still going to be what everybody else says, I'm still going to get the augmentation, I'm still, now the brothers, I'm going to get the toupee glued, I'm going to do all this stuff or whatever. I'm still like them. Then why would somebody expect anything different? See, you can't be upset when worldly men present themselves to you, sisters, if there's no difference between you and them. We got got some kind of music playing over there. I guess it's about that time for people to start getting ready for their cookouts. Welcome back home, Kofi. Right? But this is the truth. Right? You said if you don't want to change, they won't believe in you. Yeah. Right? You got to be, look, there's no reason, brother, when you sitting up there wearing the same, look, you think that, I need you to comprehend something. You think that, can I keep it a buck? I know. I'm gonna use worldly terms here. Somebody gonna be mad at me. It is what it is. I'm sorry. How you doing, Rule Line? You said it's real mythology. What's the myth that I've said so far? If you come on here, you got to at least give context or give contextual facts. If they don't give anything that reveal truth, then you're a liar and the truth's not in you, right? Now, if you're going to give ad hominem, then you can't even debate. You're not even worth my time because you're not on Yah's time. Right? Come in here with respect and come in here with something and tell me what's going on. If you're talking about this Israelite mythology, the myth that I'm saying right now, since you've only just been on the last few minutes, you got to tell me the myth. Is the myth wrong to say that we shouldn't expect persons to come around us and treat us different if we act just like the world? Or are you such a hater of righteousness that you don't realize that maybe that's why Yah hates that sinful mentality that you might carry? Right. And I'm sorry, is it, I don't know how to say it, EAI underscore DGAD. Thanks for being on with us. Thanks for being part of the community. Forgive me. Right. But you hear what I'm saying? Right? Like, I can't, look, I'm going to use some worldly terminology. I'm going to use some of the stuff that I know it might, trigger warning, I guess. I'm not calling anybody these things. I'm using worldly terminology. Okay? All right? I'm not saying the children don't have to run away from this, by the way. I'm not going that far into stuff. But I'm going to use worldly terminology. All right? But some of you need to hear this because you need to recognize we still got some separation to do. Okay? Look, we talk about girls that are ratchet, blah, blah, this and that or whatever. It's weird that you guys think that women or girls or whatever you want to call them, y'all call them B's sometimes and stuff and H's and all this stuff. You got to realize, you talking about ratchet, you think that ratchet means that some girls got to have a weave half hanging off her head, or that she's always got to be wearing some kind of weird clothes and she's always revealing her body. What y'all call ratchet, some of the most ratchet women are in the corporations. And you don't realize what attracts the so-called ratchet. Some of y'all talking about, these dudes, these guys that ain't masculine enough, these DL brothers and stuff like that. Some of them dudes are wearing the best laid and most tailored three-piece suits imaginable. See, you don't realize the system you're in. Just like in the kingdom, the poor will be with us always. You don't think there's a difference between? You don't think there's a poor male chauvinist and a rich male chauvinist? You hear what I'm saying? Right? It's a system. They have ups and downs in their system too. I'm saying that because some of you need to recognize, see, you don't know what you signed up for. You thinking that you signed up for some dude with a corporate gig, and then you find out you a side piece, and you're like, I thought that he had it all together. No, he just wears a suit when he got a side piece. The other dude might even be more honest and tell you that he wants you to be the side piece, but he just got a suit. You thought that the suit? What's that lyric from Kendrick? Oh, once a lame, always a lame. Or I don't know if I'm saying it in the right order, right? I think it's what you thought the money, the power, and the fame would make you, as in like you thought that you would get money, that you would change. No, you thought the money, the power, and the fame would make you go away, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Once a lame, always a lame. What you thought the money, the power would make you go away. The money, the power, the fame would make you go away. No, you still there. See, a lot of y'all don't realize that the man with the suit, he used to be the dude that you thought was nothing on the street. The only reason you look at him is because of what the world says. The world says, look at his suit, look at his car, look at his house, look at when he comes to the club. Look, he get to go to Vegas every once in a while. He travels on vacation outside the country. He's got stamps on his passport. He must be cultured. No, that fool is crazy. Matter of fact, a lot of y'all, when y'all go to other countries, you don't get cultured because all you do is go to the places that are protected. You don't even talk to the people. You don't have no conversations with the persons that serve. You don't go out into the street and say, you know what, let me eat where y'all eat. right? I get it. There's some places that are unsafe, but a lot of persons don't do that. They just go to the places where it's always manicured. You thought that, right? Once a lame, always a lame. What you thought the money, the power, the fame would make you go away? No, he's still there. She's still there. I'm not trying to speak ill, right? Because these are two Baltimore sisters. I'm in Baltimore. Right? That's my main location for the most part. I guess we travel so much I don't even know what that is anymore. But I guess this is my home base, my personal home base, right, so to speak. That being said, you know, Jada is a Baltimore sister who didn't get Baltimore out of her in certain ways. Not every sister in Baltimore is like this, but she got some of the stuff that we know if you from here, even, and I got family from here. Certain things that just it is, and you got to work to get some of those things out. Like all of us, if you from H-Town, there's certain things that you carry, right? She went H-Town, everybody squabbled up, including the sisters. You might have to work some of that out. You know what I'm saying? You go up to the D, Detroit, there's certain things that, hey, you got to be. You come from Oaktown, right? You cross that bridge over into San Fran, you realize I might have to get some of this stuff out of me. And San Fran ain't that great. Just different reasons. You might have to work some of that stuff out you. You Miami, hedonism on point. You might have to work some of that. I'm just saying. Don't get mad at me, right? I'm gonna speak some of y'all on right now. You know what it is. All right. I haven't been there in a couple years. Last time I went down to Newport News was to help some cats out, and I had to speak at some boxing events and talk to the youth and stuff like that. And I spoke in the ring. Some of y'all was even there. Blah blah. Like, there's some stuff that's there, whatever. Go right down where I used to be at Virginia Beach. You think that's a nice place? Some of them places in Virginia Beach you don't want to be, right? Norfolk got its own problems. Suffolk got its own problems, right? I got family around Raleigh. Got some problems over there that you don't see nowhere else, right? Was raised in Brooklyn, kind of Brooklyn, in between Brooklyn and the Bronx, right? Got some issues that that come out of there. And if I didn't work on those things, I'm not saying all those things are bad. I love some of the things that I got from some of those places. But hear what I'm saying, right? If I'm not careful, all I do is I grow with that same mentality. If you're not careful, you'll take the same mentality. See, that's why I do agree. I'm not one of these persons that say, hey, you're poor just because you think you're poor. I think that's foolishness. The word even says that's foolishness. That being said, though, yeah, there is a such thing as a poor mind. Right? Like if somebody, oftentimes persons who don't recognize how to give, right? This is poverty mind. Persons who don't know how to give usually don't have great relationships. You know why? Because you have to give in order to get. You don't know what you signed up for. You're keeping some of this belief. I'm just being honest, right? If I want my wife to give me her best, guess what I have to give? I'm from DMV, kind of. So I moved around a lot as a child, but I guess the most I'm from, as far as my childhood upbringing, is DMV. Right? So in DMV, we go-go. If you don't know about go-go, you got to listen to Chuck. You know what I'm saying? That's most of y'all start. Some of y'all know about Back and Junk, and some of y'all know. Forgive me, I should know them. I don't know why I'm getting their name. The ones that did the breakdown of where they had the guy singing the strumming my pain with her finger. Right, the go-go version. Some of y'all know about that. Anyways, though, right, that's a localized thing mostly, right? But I'm just saying, look it up on YouTube. There's a go-go, look up go-go version of Killing Me Softly, right? And put DC in there if you can't find it. It's sweet. That's if you want to know go-go culture in a nutshell, right? Kind of, sort of, right? Or when they had that thing that came out, really, I ain't gonna say the word, but when they had that go-go song out, a lot of y'all don't even know it was go-go. And they were singing from that house, and they had the guy, some of y'all N-words ain't real. That's go-go, right? That's the mentality we grew up in, and some of y'all know about that, right? But I'm saying all that to say, right, where you had the bedazzle your hat, and you had the holes, and you bought the jean jacket, but you put your holes in it yourself, and dudes could actually wear the glitter, and you put your name on it and stuff, and you was underage, but you was trying to get to the warehouse and all that stuff, right? That's go-go. But anyway, I'm saying, long story short, there's a lot of stuff that I came up in even if I wasn't the street dude, I was, next to it. But even if I wasn't the street dude, I came up with a lot of that mentality. It had to go if I was going to become who Yah called me to be. Right? It had to go. There's a part of me that is nostalgic. I talked about that before. Nostalgic trauma. Holy Spirit gave us that before. Nostalgic trauma. Like there's a lot of nostalgia we have for things that were actually traumatic. They were killing us and they were killing our community. They were killing our marriages. They still are if we're not careful. And we have an opportunity to change that for righteousness. But there has to be a standard, beloved. See, Jacob came, right? And Jacob was supposed to create a standard. Laban saw what was in Jacob and said, I'll take the one that's supposed to create a standard and I'll shift him over here because I know that whatever he touches will be blessed. And he got two sisters to go for it, Rachel and Leah. And so we still have a fight. And then those two sisters got their maidservants in on it. Was it Bilhah and Milpah? I hope, right? Baalapah and Myalapah, right? And so now you got two women that don't even really get credit for their sons. They had two sons apiece, don't even really get credit for it, and only got involved in it because Rachel had her womb shut because of her disobedience, but still in her disobedience, she couldn't take the L. My greatness. See, somebody gonna be mad today, but the only one that really gonna be mad is the devil. We're gonna keep knocking this door down. We got some time today. Holy Spirit told me to end early yesterday. She ain't said quit today. We still got an hour, just about, right? It's time to knock this thing down. Look, somebody got to hear this. How you doing, Margot? Right? Margot boy, or Margot bird, excuse me. Right? Somebody got to hear this. Even if you don't feel this, you're going to get this today. You're going to learn today, right? Even disobedience, Rachel couldn't take the L. And so she involved other persons. And now, see, you don't get it. Back then, I don't think, see, persons don't catch this. Do you know that Abraham already had a people before he had Isaac? We're in Barashayat's Lamed, or Genesis chapter 30. Do you not realize that? Now, I'm trying to help somebody. That Abraham had a people before he had Isaac. Some persons don't catch this. I'm not talking about his father's house. He was told to disconnect from that house because of the unrighteousness and the idol worship and him being with Nimrod. Read the book of Joshua for more information on that if you don't know what I'm talking about. How you doing, Eric? Right? But I'm trying to help somebody. Remember, Abraham became great. And when Abraham had to go and fight the Canaanites to free Lot up before he gave the tithe to Melchizedek. If you recall correctly, hear me, beloved. If you recall correctly, it tells you in Scripture, we've been going through the series now for a while, so some of y'all might not have been here with us for this, but you can read your Bible, it'll bless you. Go through this, see if what I'm saying is correct. The Bible will tell you, right? The scroll will tell you, Savada will tell you, Kepher will tell you, however you want to pronounce it, Savada will tell you that when this happened, hear me, beloved, when this happened, when Abraham goes back, he takes a bunch of men with him. A bunch of men had become servants, but servants are not slaves, especially in this context. These are men who have chosen to work under and be on the land that is Abraham's. That means that these are families who have connected and have become one. And it says they had become so great that when Abraham left to free Lot, it said that there had been a whole generation who, in the time that Abraham had been growing, there had been a whole generation that had been born and raised up to there where they were adults, and they went and fought too. I need you to catch this. See, this is why you got to be careful. When you hear Abraham, some of you are only thinking Abraham as far as a person. That's why you forget to talk about Sarah a lot, right? And because of some misogyny too, possibly. That being said, though, Abraham, when he left to fight, it wasn't just 10 brothers. This was a nation. Matter of fact, you keep on going, the blessing that Abraham bestows upon Isaac. Isaac, when he grows, right? It says he kept growing to the point to where the same persons that were already afraid of Abraham when they tried to, when he lied about Sarah being his sister, so that, and they almost took her as wife, and they were afraid at the size of what Yah had given to Abraham already and then gave him more. It said when Isaac showed back up and started unstopping the wells that they had stopped up, it said that he was way greater than Abraham was. And he only has 2 sons, meaning that Isaac is a nation. Y'all don't catch it. This is why nationality is big. Abraham is a nation, and anybody who serves him has to be grafted into his family. This is why when Abraham gets circumcised, everybody who's going to be part of this has to be what? Circumcised. If you're not circumcised, you're not part of what? The nation. I'm not here telling everybody to go back when if you're 55 years old and never been circumcised, you got to go get your stuff taken care of. No. But right, that's why circumcision of the heart is mandatory as well. But hear what I'm saying. That's why it makes it there, that important decree. How you doing, Sister Monica? That's why the important decree is there in the Bible, talking about circumcision. Circumcision representing those who are lawful. This is why any man who's going to get married into Israel, when you see it in the Bible, guess what? If you're going to marry an Israelite woman, you got to be circumcised. When Timothy comes back with Paul, Paul makes Timothy get what? Circumcised. It's important. It's law. It's protection, and it's also something that shows everybody that, yes, I roll with this. I'm down with this. I rock with this. It's important. How you doing? This is Snell Weir. Thanks for being on. Oh, my back pockets are already full. Right? But right, at least for today. That being said, at least for today, but I get what you're saying. I don't know if we got time for all that today, right? But hear what I'm saying. How you doing, Joey? Right? So persons don't catch this, that anybody who served Abraham, see, this is why you got to get out of this context. You don't recognize when you go to your corporation and work, you are part of that corporation, are you not? I'm trying to help somebody. See, how you doing, Brother Ali? The United States is a corporation. So when you work for that corporation, are you part of that corporation? I'm just trying to help somebody. This is why we have to get to a point to where we can have our own situation. For those of us that went to the Bible Museum, right? If you notice, every museum that you might have went to in Washington, D.C., every memorial, every monument you might have went to in Washington, D.C., this last weekend, this Memorial Day weekend, you might have noticed that every single one was free except the Bible Museum, which means that the Bible Museum is privately owned. They get to show and tell you, even if some of the stuff's not true, but whatever, there was actually a very nice experience, right? But I'm just saying, whatever's true or not true, it doesn't matter. They privately own it because they recognize if they give it to you for free, then that means that they have to participate in the corporation. And the only way that you can make that work, the way that they feel they should, is to make sure it's privately owned. Be mad at me all you want. The blueprint is there. I'm trying to tell you. You said, what do you mean they have to participate in the corporation? The United States, by law. I'm going to say this a few times, not just for you, but just so that you might be able to either write it down or type it out or whatever. 28, this is law. 28 USC, that stands for United States Code. 28 USC 3002, 1515, subsection A. Once again, that's 28 USC 3002, 15, subsection A. We may or may not get back to it today. As far as Holy Spirit, if you do have the question again, if you're able to, I'm not sure what your schedule is regularly, but if you're able to join us on Thursday's Q&A, if you remind me about it, we can answer it. Or even if you're not here, we talk about it. We record all this stuff on our YouTube channel. Once again, 28 USC, thank you, Sister Shirley, I see you, 28 USC 3002, 15, subsection A. Straight up, right? If you look at 28 USC 3002, 15, subsection A, that tells you that the United States is a corporation. It is not a country. If you do some research, you'll discover Washington, D.C. is not a city, right? It's not a capital. It is actually a territory. You've just been taught different. So you think the United States, now there is a version of the United States that's a country, but once again, that's why we say be in the world but not of it. A lot of persons don't know you can be in the corporation and not of it, or you can be just straight up in the country. And the country is supposed to protect the rights of all that are free, according to the Constitution. So even if you don't consider yourself to be an American citizen, but a non-citizen national or a sovereign, etc., when you hear those persons saying like that, you can be a sovereign or a non-citizen national and still be protected, because the United States, the country, has to protect your sovereign rights. The corporation, right, has to agree to that, but at the same time, they want you to give up any sovereignty. But anyways, going back to the 28 USC 300215 subsection A tells you the United States is a corporation. You can look it up. Matter of fact, Salah, I'll give you guys, if you want, I'll give you 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so. Have at it. Look it up, because we're going to go with subsection A, B, and C. Quick. Right. Some of you have already heard this before. I'm going to be super repetitive here. Right. But for those who haven't heard this, this will be a blessing to you and to show you that we're not making stuff up. This is 28 USC 300215 subsection A, B, and C. If you want to look it up, make sure that you're there when we talk about this so you can read it for yourself. Make sure that I'm not just lying to you, right? Try the spirit to see if it's a velachim. If I'm telling you it is there, you should be able to see some kind of evidence, right? So if you want to look it up real quick or have it on your phone real quick, I don't know if you can look at your phone and listen at the same time, depending on what kind of phone you have. If you want to put it on your computer or your laptop while you're looking at this, put it on your television, whatever. 28 USC 300215 subsection A, B, and C. We're going to go over, right? But right now, 28 USC 300215 subsection A, the United States is a corporation. That's law. That's not a country, right? Unless you're dealing with sovereign. If it's a sovereign nation, that's not the same as a corporation. By the way, every state is, the word state means country. So the United States are 50 countries. So if we're talking about the United States, we have to figure out what country are you in. But it can also be a corporation. That's why if you notice, there's something called the state of, your state, and then there is what? Your state. In other words, if you're in New York, there's something in law, right? You can look it up. You'll see there's the state of New York, and then you'll see there's New York State. There's the state of Colorado, and then there is Colorado State. You'll see there is the state of California, and then there is California State. You'll see there is the state of Texas, and then there is Texas State. You will see there is the state of the Union, and then there's the United States. It's a lot. Right? So do some research. But when you look at that, you'll figure out real quick, oh, there's a corporation. There's a corporation of the state, and then there's a state, a country. That's why each country, each state has certain things. But you got to learn USC. USC is United States Code, so that's federal. That's the artificial governance. That's the corporation. Right? That's why the USC has to tell you we are a corporation. Yeah, all this is in SOC University. We had a lot of catching up to do with that too. Right? Even though I've been trying to put more on Patreon, I have not been catching up with all the university stuff. So we got to get that going too. Even though all that's there. So part of the reason we put it there too is you can look it up at any time. And if you have questions, comments, or concerns, you can always reach out. Right? But hear what I'm saying. Yeah, law is spiritual. Matter of fact, look in your Bible. Romans chapter 7. Paul says the law is spiritual. Somebody says, no, the law is physical. In order to get with Yehoshua, we have to go into the spiritual. But Paul said, whoa, wait a minute. He said the law is spiritual. He said the law is holy. He said the law is amat. It's true. He said the commandments are holy. He said the statutes are holy. Matter of fact, he even said if it was not for the law, Paul says he wouldn't know not to lust if there was no law that said not to lust. Why? Because the law tells Paul not to covet. And he said if he didn't have a law to say not to covet, to want something that doesn't belong to you, then he wouldn't know not to lust. The same Paul that they'll tell you is anti-law. Right? But anyways, 28 USC 302215 subsection A. Anybody who's going there, you can see very clearly it's not even that long. It just says it says United States, and then it says subsection A is a corporation. That's not even that difficult. Right? If somebody disagrees with the United States Code, if you're going to say I'm lying about the United States Code and won't simply just go, hey, let me read the United States Code and see that these cats literally say it's a corporation, this is when you know, like I said, this is when sometimes you just have to let people do what they do. It is it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? No cap detected. There you go. There you go. The Mississippi State, the state of Mississippi. You know, I'm telling you, it's right there. But anyways, 28 USC 300215 subsection A tells us it's a corporation. Everybody got that? We're gonna move on to subsection B, right? But you don't know what you signed up for, what somebody signed you up for. This is why we got to get out of this negative contract with the devil, and we got to go back to contract or covenant with the Most High. And covenant contract is considered to be law. Matter of fact, laws protect contracts. Do you know that laws are in many cases more legally binding than the Constitution itself? The Constitution is only really there to protect the law, which means that the Constitution being law protects law to make sure that whatever agreement and covenants that you have to be manifested the way that it was agreed, even upon supposition or presupposition. Hallelujah. So, once again, 28 USC 300215, subsection A tells you the United States is a corporation. Guess what subsection B says the United States corporation is? Now, there's a bunch of stuff it's going to tell you, including telling you that it's a group, it's a trust, all these different things, which will show you that it's not a country, it's a trust. A trust is not a country, right? Because you know a trust cannot be defended by itself, which means that whenever you see federal lawyers representing the United States, either A, it's a lie, they shouldn't be, so you should call it out because somebody who's part of a corporation defend them, or they have to get a private lawyer. They have to pay lawyers, right, to represent them. That's why all these lawyers, they get paid a lot. These lawyers for the government, they get paid a lot. Why do you get paid a lot? You get paid a lot because you're supposed to have a private lawyer. The lawyer is not supposed to be part of the corporation, or at least not represent the corporation. You can't be the corporation to represent it. Right? If you don't know this, if you have your own home, your own business, whatever, and you want to defend your home in court, you can defend it because the house is under you as an artificial corporation. But or I'm sorry, it's under you. Let's just make it simple. Let's say the house is under you. You can defend your house in court, right? You can defend yourself. But let's say you have your house in a trust as part of a corporation. Guess what then? To defend your house, you have to get a lawyer. Why? Because your house, if it's your house, then it's you. Home, house means family. You're part of the family. You're part of the house. The house is yours. So you can't defend you, right? You could defend you, but if you make it part of a trust is not you, right? A trust is not you. So since the trust is not you, the trust is an artificial person. You have now made this an artificial person. Are you catching what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it again because I messed up in the beginning. So I could defend my house in court if I needed to, because it's my house, right? Now I'm a Levite, so this works differently for me anyways, but I'm just saying, let's just say we go by what everybody's normal thing is. Let's say I own this house. I can defend my house. Why? Because it's part of me. It's my house. It's my family. And therefore, being part of me, I can defend it in court. Some might still say you want to get a lawyer, but I'm allowed lawfully to defend me. Therefore, defend what's mine or part of me. But the second I make a trust or put this in a trust or a corporation even and say, this belongs to the corporation now, I cannot defend corporation or this house because it belongs to what? A corporation, an artificial entity. I'm a natural person, or maybe even I'm an artificial person, but I say that I'm not the same artificial person that this house is under. I've made another trust and said that this belongs to another corporation. So if it belongs to another corporation, I, unless I'm a lawyer, right, allowed within a certain state or federal government, unless I am a lawyer for them, right, allowed, right, licensed, just like we should be licensed, ordained ourselves and stuff, I have to be licensed or ordained by the country or the state that I'm in, and they say, I get to do this, right? So this is a trust. But guess what also the United States is? The United States is not just a trust, but once again, so it's a corporation. Now we're in 28 USC 300215 subsection B. It's a trust. Guess what else? It is also, there's many things it says in subsection B, but I'll focus on trust, and I'll also focus on it is a board. Which makes sense because every corporation is supposed to, by law, have a board. Is that correct? Some of you may or may not know that, but let me just help you with that. Every corporation is supposed to have a board. Every trust is supposed to have a board. If you're going to start a corporation, guess what they're going to look for? By law, they got to say, hey, put a board together. This is why your churches right? LLCs. A lot of you don't know your churches are LLCs and they're corporations. So that's why you have boards. That's why you have trusts. That's why you have trustees. You didn't know that, did you? You have trustees because your church is a trust. But by the way, does the trust belong? See, now this, see, we got to be careful. No, we don't have to be careful with this. That's the wrong word. We got to be righteous with this. You ready? So if your church is a trust, and then it doesn't belong to Yah, it belongs to an artificial person. If it's an artificial person and it's governed through the artificial person of the United States, then who owns the church? I'm just saying, be careful. See, we don't know how law works. No wonder there are churches who are going to do certain things with the government no matter what and have to check in because they don't belong to the people or even the person or the family that started it. Your churches belong to the corporation because they're a trust. That's why you have a board, right? It's not just important that you have a pastor. You have to have a pastor. You have to have, like, look, y'all been there before. I don't care if it's the fish fry committee. I don't care if it's the deacons. I don't care if it's the deaconess. I don't care if whatever it is in your church. You know that in there, everybody got a president and a vice president and a secretary and a treasurer. That's why they count your money up in front of you. Or they don't count it up in front of you, but they make sure they take the stuff and do the offering in front of you the way that they do. It's a corporation. You see it in the service. It's a corporation. They have you sign all that stuff to keep track of who's giving. Because in a corporation, you're supposed to keep track of those who are in the corporation. You got to make sure if somebody goes to corporate, somebody got to be able to explain what's going on, and if corporate needs to give or do something or whatever. It's a corporation. It's incorporated. Right? So it's a trust. You don't even realize that. So if you got trustees, persons ask me sometimes, where are the trustees? We don't have trustees. In order to have trustees, you gotta have a trust. We're not a trust. I trust Yah, so I don't entrust SOC to anybody but him. Some persons, well, if this was the way that the church was ran, yeah, that's how the church is ran. I'm not a trust. I'm not part of a trust. I'm not an artificial person, and we're not artificial people. We are the people. Why would I have a trust? I'm gonna say it again. Yeah, they idolize them corporations. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you again. I'm gonna say it again. Why would I entrust SOC to the corporation? Why would I run it the way the world runs it? Why would I make sure that, hey, the way that the world would do is what I would do? That's not how the word works. This is why anybody who's of SOC, any minister, I don't take your license or your ordinances or being ordained or whatever. I don't take your position and ask permission of any state. I'm trying to help you out. I don't ask permission from any state. See, in order for you to get married, you got to go through a prison through somebody, whereas your marriage is not lawfully binding, whether public or private. We do our stuff privately, which means privately we have a specific manner according to the word that we do, and there's certain rules and regulations that we're looking for no matter what. And if you go outside of those, then you have to go under somebody else's stuff in order for your marriage to make sense, lawfully. Legally, private or public or otherwise, right? What many persons do is you go to the state, right? And whether I've been the person to marry you at SOC, some of you have been married by under the ministerial staff or whatever, right? Especially if it was under my permission and stuff like that, if you were married under and stuff like that, because there's still a certain way we do things regardless, right? But when you do that, you got to recognize, hear what I'm saying, there has to be permission, authorization, right? So somebody, if they get ordained or even licensed, right? But really, in order to marry in many of your states, you have to be ordained. What does ordained means? You have to be lawfully put in place. So if you are ordained in the state of Nebraska to marry somebody, or if you want to get married in Nebraska, and you said, Pastor Kofi, can you marry us? I would say, let's talk about it, because if you want me to marry you, I'm not going to marry you under the state of Nebraska, because the only way I can lawfully do so, or legally do so, lawful and legal is not always the same thing. So the only way I can legally marry you is that I would have to get permission, however that takes place, whether I do it in some weird way or some positive, righteous way, whatever, I would have to go through a process of becoming under the state of Nebraska. But if I do that, that means that anything that I am charged with is now under, in some way, the state of Nebraska. And that's not what we're called to be as a nation or as a people, right? So what I would do is I'll say, okay, look, if you are looking for certain things that come through the state, if you want me to marry you, I'll suggest that you go to the state before I come. And that way we only have to worry about cold feet and all that too. You go get your license. And then when I come, I will marry you privately. And you could be protected. And if you need different things, if you feel like you got to go through the state, go through them. And I can say, hey, we don't have anything to do with that. But if you want us to protect in certain ways and do what we're supposed to do here, we can do that too. Right? Because the second that I say, hey, I'm going to do that, I have to therefore be ordained under Nebraska. And whatever Nebraska says is worship, that means as I say it's worship. That also means, now I don't know if this is true with Nebraska, I'm just using a random state, right? But let's just say, I don't think it is, I don't know if it is, but let's just say for the sake of argument, Nebraska says, if you are ordained by us, then you can't say no to marrying persons who are same sex. Then that means that everything at SOC, anybody at any time could come through and try to sue somebody or sue us for peace at SOC, or even take SOC or change SOC and say, hey, you guys can't ever perform marriages again if we find out that you're under Nebraska or you've done something under Nebraska. We've given them license to do that because we performed their ordinance, not Yah's ordinance, or we performed under their law, and so we're only protected by Nebraska, right? Or at least they can say we are, versus being protected under the Most High. You hear what I'm saying? So you said you're in Nebraska? Okay. So I'm not sure. I was just using a random state, right? You have to study each state, just state by state or country by country basis, right? If I go to another country, I can't just go to another country and marry you. I have to have permission from the country, or I have to have somebody from the country marry you if you want to get things in that state or that country to be ordained. Because ordinances are law. This is also weird too, by the way, when you hear preachers say, I'm an ordained elder, I'm an ordained reverend, I'm an ordained preacher, I'm an ordained prophet, I'm an ordained prophetess. But it's like, how you ordained and not realizing that you got to be under somebody's law. So who are you ordained under? Because you got to follow law in order to follow ordinance. You can't do an ordinance without law. You can't be ordained without somebody who ordains you. Who ordained you? We don't think about these things. We just go, oh, so-and-so said there's so-and-so. You got to tell me who ordained you. And then I have to accept it, because if I go under your ordinance, so this is why you got to be careful too. When somebody says that they're a preacher, and they say, I'm preaching to you as presiding prelates, overseer, whatever. Well, then overseer, I need to see who you under. Because whatever you speak, you represent covering. And how you doing, Brother Vincent? I'm sorry, right? You got to represent covering. You said you're all one in Yahuwah. Yeah, see, once again, people don't want to talk about nationality. See, where they're going to all this stuff, people see the way I'm dressed and they see my locks, and they don't even realize I'm not even talking about that, right? I'm talking about 28 USC 3002 15 subsection A and B, right? A lot of you are listening to persons who are in trust and don't realize that if you are in a trust, you have been entrusted, or if you're under an organization that is a trust or LLC or a corporation, that means they are entrusted to something artificial, not something of nature or natural. That's law. But then there's another thing in 28 USC 3002 15 subsection B, not just trust, but then there is something called a board. This is why you are in a United States corporation. In your corporation, there's a such thing called a president, because every corporation has a president. There's a such thing called a vice president, because every corporation has a vice president. There's such thing called a secretary, because every corporation has a secretary. There's such thing called a treasurer, because every corporation has a treasurer. See, some of y'all like, where's the treasurer? And where this and where? That's corporative talk. They wouldn't have called Judas Iscariot. When we say he's the treasurer, we say that because we want you to know what he meant. He didn't have no title called treasurer. There was no corporation back then. He wasn't no treasurer. They entrusted him to count the money and stuff. And somebody said, well, that's what a treasurer is. No, a treasurer is something different. By the way, treasure. And we don't even think. Once again, law is spiritual, right? Yahushua told us, where your heart is, that's where your treasure will be also. That's why he had to go to the so-called treasurer, Judas, and he saw him doing some things. He was trying to help him out. He said, hey, man, don't be so stuck on this stuff. Don't be so stuck on this money. You missing the fact, right? The treasure is here. The kingdom is here. The Messiah is here. You missing it, bro. You complaining because she would use money on the alabaster box and not realizing that the alabaster box is being used to make sure that the treasure is kept. The thing that's going to allow you to get into heaven is being taken care of, but you can't see it because you're so upset because you're thinking that money is a treasure. Don't treasure money. Don't put money as a treasure. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who found a treasure hidden in the field, and for the joy thereof, he sold everything that he had so he could buy the field. The kingdom of heaven is like the wheat and the tare, in which the enemy sowed tare in the middle of the night. But Yahweh came and said, no problem, I'll take care of the wheat and the tare, or let my angels do so. And when I separated the tare, they'll be thrown away because they're poisonous, and the wheat will be put where it's supposed to be. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant man who sold righteous pearls and sold great pearls. And when he sold them, and while selling them, he found a pearl that was greater than anything else he knew, and he knew the value of it. For the joy thereof, he sold everything that he had just so he could own the pearl. You misplacing the treasure. See, some of us are signed up for things and treasures and stuff and in corporations and not realizing that these persons who are treasurers has gotten you away from the true treasure, which is the kingdom of heaven. Thank you, Tank. Thanks for being on. You hear what I'm saying? All these LLCs, all these things like that, all these trusts, all these corporations, we don't know how this stuff works. A lot of you, when you went to church, you didn't know that you went to a corporation, but if you have a trustee, you have a corporation. They've set it up so that this is why, what is it? Forgive me, I haven't ever used one of these. I used to know this better because I used to think about getting it. What is the number when you want to get help from the government or whatever and get government assistance? A lot of churches use that too. There is a version of it that you can still be private in a lot of your details and a lot of the way you run stuff too. So I'm not trying to rage against it, but there's a number, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there's a number you can use to be able to get help. A lot of churches get that and don't realize that when you get that, as soon as you get those, this number, as soon as I said it, y'all be like, yeah, I don't know why. Like I said, I don't use it. I used to know about it a lot. Not a 211. It feels like it's something 11 in there. But anyways, you get this, and when you get it from the federal government especially, that's why you see a lot of churches run stuff, because the federal government subsidizes, but they want a lot of stuff from them, right? So the federal government will give these churches like their diapers. When you see churches with big places and they have a place where the children get washed, the government, the state gives you that, right? The state puts up, and you'll see some places where you'll see like a baby up there in Pampers and blah, blah. And you don't think about it because you're in a church and you're just like, oh yeah, the Pampers go here. Now I realize no, like they're advertising, and in order for you to get that free stuff, which is resources, money, finances, etc., some of them even land. A lot of you don't know that there are places that will give you loans. I looked into it, but we can't really use it. I'm trying to see if there's another version of it so we can get a second plot and stuff. But I've looked into it before, where there's places, especially like in Georgia and Alabama, there's a place that you can go to get basically get your money or get your loan. And really the loan is easy to pay off, and they just want to build a bunch of churches. But here's the deal: if you're gonna get the money from them, you have to know where you get the money from. You have to know what you signed up for. You have to say Jesus Christ is Lord. You have to make sure that basically you're kind of like on Republican rhetoric down, at least for that Southern Republican rhetoric and stuff like that, without me going into too deep into that. I think you guys get that, what I'm saying. And you can't say anything about Israel. You can't say anything. 501c3, that's what it is. Thank you, 501c3. There's a version of 501c3, it's like 501 something else that you can get and be more private. But 501c3, when you see those things, persons have signed up. They've signed their soul. They've signed away their soul to a certain degree. You have to, like that's why, like, some places, I don't know if some of you have seen, some churches have been sued and lost when they've actually said they don't want to marry. If they say we choose not to marry two men together and women together, they've been sued and they've lost. Why did they lose? They lost because if you're getting money from 501c3, one of the things that's put in there is like, hey, we're okay with gay or lesbian marriage, or any kind of LGBTQ plus marriage. Maybe not any kind. I can't say that. That might be too strong, right? But definitely you got to be okay with guy and guy and girl and girl. So you'll go to a church, you don't even realize that even though, and you might not have an issue or never seen an issue with it where you go, because it just hasn't come up. Or somebody said no and somebody didn't know, they could sue, or they just said it's not worth it and they went somewhere else. But the reality is, a lot of money that you get Once again, you're not just getting the blessing from anywhere. You got to consider the birthright. That means you got to consider the lineage. That means you got to consider that person's will. And ultimately, whenever you get a blessing, it comes with a charge. What have we signed up for? But don't forget, I said 28 USC 300215 subsection A, corporation. 28 USC 300215 subsection B, right? A board, a trust. Don't forget, then there's 28 USC 300215 subsection C, instrumentalization. And I can never say that word correctly. Instrumentalization. I always mess it up. Anyways, what that basically, if you get down deep into it, what does that really mean? Kind of on a surface level, because that's a whole teaching within itself. Basically, what that's saying is that you are publicly traded. You are chattel. The United States and anything that belongs to it basically is on the chopping block at all times. Your blood equity, your sweat equity, right? You don't realize the value of you. The dollar's not as valuable as you. I don't care if they said you were worth $500 billion, it wouldn't be enough. Every life, even the life of the not so innocent, every life is expensive, right? This is why, and I think some people lie a little bit because some persons don't know there's some territory on this that people make stuff up. At least I haven't seen enough evidence to back stuff up on people that I'm under. Haven't seen it either. They're gonna ask some questions on it, but people I'm under on the sovereignty side, on learning from the gurus and stuff in the sovereignty world. We haven't seen the evidence per se. We've seen some closer evidence, and we know how it kind of works. But it's so crazy the way they have it. It's hard to even really get the pulse of this all the time. But long story short, that's why everybody's birth certificate. I don't know how this whole thing works, where people keep saying you can get all the money from your birth certificate, but even if you did, you have to make it authentic, which means you have to become a slave. Right. But that being said, so you still would become a $6 million slave. People don't get that part. So you would still be in service, and you still wouldn't be able to do certain things anyways. And now more stuff will get from you. So be careful when people say authenticate your birth certificate. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not going to explain it. Trust me. You'll thank me later. Please don't make a birth certificate that says that you are not a real person anyways and that you're a slave. Please don't make that authenticated, because if you make it authentic, then it means that now you are authentically a slave. Doesn't make sense. I'll just leave that there. That being said, right? 28 USC 300215 subsection C tells us specifically that basically you're an instrument. You're a negotiable instrument, right? You know your money, a dollar, a penny, is a negotiable instrument. You're a slave, an artificial person, an artificial slave. So if you want to be part of the corporation, United States corporation, you have to be an artificial, publicly tradable instrument. And by the way, if you were an instrument, see what you signed up for? You don't know. If you're an instrument, are you to be played? I can't believe that they would tell us these lies and nobody would touch it. If you're an instrument, are you designed to be played? If you're an instrument, are you designed to be spent? I'm spent, man. I'm tired. I'm drained. If you're an instrument, you're designed to be spent, like a fiddle, right? If you're an instrument of evil, I don't care how righteous you want to be, you're going to end up evil or doing evil. Come on, there you go. If you're an instrument of secretary, and your secretary only gets paid $40,000, $50,000, that's what you signed up for. They should raise my wages. You're an instrument. We'll only raise the stuff when it's a benefit to us. You know, every time they raise somebody's minimum wages, it means that really they're paying you the same thing, if not less. Why? Like, even look at it like this. I know we're going different places, but we're still in the same pocket. We're talking about what you signed up for and how we got to get out of this, right? Prayerfully, I won't go too long. I might go a couple minutes over. We got a little less than 20 minutes left. If y'all want to stay on past 11, I'm not going to go that long. I got to get some rest for real. Anyway, but hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying. Right? If you're an instrument, you're there to be played. If you're an instrument, you're there to be spent. If you're an instrument, you're there to be negotiated for or against. Right? And they're only giving you stuff. They're not giving you anything that's not helping the corporation first. right? Peep game. They took the hard cap 2% hard cap years ago now off of your forgive me, inflation. So when they took that hard cap off, inflation happens at a crazy rate, right? So that means that 10 years ago, what was worth $2 in some places might be worth 15 because there is no hard cap. And by the way, it works even state to state. Now we're going to talk federal, but state to state stuff can change too, right? City to city, it can change. Gas pump to gas pump, it can change. All right, so if we have a place, right, and by the way, don't let these persons lie to you either. You know, when they try to act like the mob or gangs are not over your gas station still, it's the same people who owned it. And even if they went legit, they still using the same legit. Now that what used to be illegitimate, they made legitimate. It's just like when you guys saw, well, we didn't see it, but when they had prohibition on alcohol. When they had prohibition on alcohol, people still sold alcohol. Matter of fact, prices might even went up because of all they had to do. And government officials would even show up at the stuff. But when but then when the government said we need to put a cap on it, then what happened was a marriage in between the government and the gangs. The government ain't nothing more than the gang anyways. And the governments and the gang came together, right? And so now that's when you get the Kennedys in government. Jack Kennedy was supposed to be your first president. He never made it. That's why John made it, because he was next generation. But Jack was supposed to be your first president. And he was uplifting Adolf Hitler and all of them. He was the one trying to filibuster, in a sense. I don't know if he actually physically did a filibuster, but he was the one, in essence, filibustering America getting into the war because he knew that America was going to end up winning. And he was tied in financially with Adolf. This is why JFK, when you look at his journal, I'm not making anything up, you can look at it for yourself. When you look at his private journal that they released to everybody, he talks about Adolf Hitler being a hero. And black folk started voting Democrat because they said JFK for us. And the reality was, black folk, we were supposed to have a grassroots movement that was literally going to shut DC down and shut the government down. And JFK had to go threaten MLK and say, hey, I'm going to kill off all these black folk if y'all don't do something. And MLK said, look, I'm not in charge of it. He said, I don't care. We got people that will subsidize you, but you better figure out a way not to make it what they're going to be, because we'll kill all of you off on wax. And MLK had to make a decision. Do I want to see my people die like that, or do we try to say this is a march for peace? Even in that, though, if you listen to some of the stuff that he said on the march, like we're coming for our check, he was talking about reparations still. Don't nobody want to tell the truth. It's the truth. Right? So I'm trying to tell you, the government is not making these moves that you're thinking because it's for the benefit of you. Shalom, Sister Joy. They're not doing these things because it's of your benefit. You really think so? No. Inflation. When inflation is high, okay, the minimum wage was $10. All right, we'll move it up to 13. Everybody says, yay, this will be so much more. And then you guys say, wait a minute, I still can't afford a place to live. Yeah, because they're not giving you a place to live. If inflation has gone up $10 and then they gave you a $3 increase, what you think changed? Now you're more in debt. Now you're more slave. It was an artificial commitment to an artificial person, publicly traded. And now they can go to other places and say, yeah, I know we having problems with debt and all this stuff, but for real, we ain't in debt. That's theirs. And they live as private while you had take on public debt. Look at how your Congress members live. They're not mine, so I got to tell them they're yours. I got to tell you the truth. Look at how your Congresswoman, you talking about, look, Maxine gets up talking about, I'm redeeming the time. She ain't redeemed you, though. And Maxine's an elder. I got to give respect to our elder. That being said, ask her when you get a chance. Ask her, because you some of y'all came up for her more than I ever will, or that we're ever called to as a nation, because she's not even in our nation right now. She's considering herself to be something else. Ask her, when is she going to improve you? Don't tell me about how they built a few homes. You know this thing that came up with Dave Chappelle? Some of y'all missed it. Recently, Dave Chappelle came to a thing in his city in Ohio, and he was upset and frustrated because they were building homes for for basically persons, affordable housing. and stuff that the government could subsidize and all that and make money, right? And so a lot of people got mad at Dave Chappelle, right? My buddy, Conscious Lee, got upset at Dave Chappelle. And a lot of y'all did and came out and said all this stuff. And I can't believe Dave. See, of course, he's a hypocrite. And look, Dave Chappelle does some things that are hypocritical for sure. But y'all missed it. They were like, see, Dave Chappelle, he came to the thing and he was all against them building homes and this and that or whatever. And why wouldn't he want affordable homes? And y'all don't realize he gave $60-something million. And it wasn't just for rich white folk or rich black folk. He's giving that money because guess what? Make real homes and bring down the prices of the mortgage so that we won't be sitting there hoping the government gives us anything, but we might be able to be free. And he told him, if you won't do that, then I'm taking my $65 million and I'm out. And they changed their mind and went back to what the original was rather than what they were trying to trick us into. And persons came against them and people didn't get it. You're so busy being like, we just got to have affordable housing. Affordable housing doesn't feed you. Affordable housing keeps you a slave. Now, I'm not saying for some of us that need it right now, get what you need, but the goal should be for our people at some point to get to a place to where we don't need it. And he was saying, why not bring black folk into our community and make sure that you lower the stuff the same way you did for your people so that we would be able to make sure that we can go ahead and have something to pass down generation. Because once you get some land, right, even if you're having a hard time, look, y'all, before us. So I'm not speaking this over myself or anybody here. I'm just saying, if we ever have a hard time, but you got some land, I don't care if you got a little corner lot somewhere. At least if you got some kind of land, guess what? If push comes to shove, you can at least get $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 out of it nowadays. That's enough to make sure that you could go somewhere you could probably build on other property and get something like that together for $200,000, invest the rest of it and live off interest for the rest of your life. But everybody got mad at Dave because how dare he not keep people in the system? We're so busy fighting for the system that we don't even see what it's doing against us. And everybody was mad at him. Everybody was saying all this stuff. And I'm like, how are y'all mad at this dude? He literally said, what y'all say is affordable is stuff that we can't afford because, yes, people can get stuff from you, but you only use it to keep them enslaved. Why not make sure that you give these persons who are working hard and working diligently the same stuff that you used to give yourselves? If it's really about fair, true equity, and it's about stopping you from being somebody that's publicly traded as an instrument, then give these persons the instruments that allow them to negotiate. Because really, for real, if you believe, right, I'm not even saying this is kingdom. I'm saying this is capitalism, at least what they try to tell you capitalism is. If this is what you say American capitalism is, and it's a fair shot, then guess what? Then give them the fair shot and let them trade their way in or out of debt. Now, if you give them the opportunity and they trade their way into debt, that's on them. That's on us. But at least give us the fair opportunity. If that's what you say this is supposed to be, but see, when you don't do that, then that's what I got to look back and I got to say, it's not just about capital, it's about capitalism, a system in which certain persons keep capital and others don't. So this is why I can't mess with it, right? This is why we shouldn't mess with it. This is why I can't love or honor or respect these things, because see, they're not even thieves. There is some honor amongst thieves. See, but they've gone to another level. See, we keep just saying these persons are thieves. No, these persons snatch up souls. These persons racketeer, and then they charge Diddy for racketeering, but they won't give you the money back that their people did when they racketeered you. I'm not saying that we shouldn't say Diddy's a monster, but if Diddy's a monster, multiply Diddy times 500 billion. Right? You want to keep this a buck? You want to have real conversation? Multiply what he did and multiply it by hundreds of years. You want to talk about Diddy took a girl across straight lines. Terrible, right? You took us across bodies of water. You took us from nations in America and then told us we weren't Americans. And then during the Boston Tea Party, took the scalps that you had scalped off of us, put them back on your heads, put on blackface, put on markers, walked around and said boo, 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 and then threw tea off and said, you're an American, when an American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. Take what Diddy did and multiply it times 500 billion. What are you talking about? I'm not saying Diddy's not evil. I'm not saying Diddy's not wicked. I'm not saying according to American law that he doesn't deserve to go under the jail. Matter of fact, according to kingdom law, he deserves everything that's coming to him and then some. And I prayed for him, and I've only simply prayed this. If he get his heart together, y'all, you forgive him, because it's really difficult for me to do so, but I got to release it, because I can be sitting up here angry at this dude all day, and I ain't never met him. I don't know which things he did or didn't do. I know he did a lot of them. At the end of the day, he's yours to deal with, right? I agree. He did evil. I'm not going to be one of these cats out here that seem really wild out here trying to defend Diddy, and that's becoming a Republican versus Democrat thing. Y'all can have that there. He evil. He wicked. And what he did was wicked. And if y'all hates him because he hates sinners, then I hate him too. That means I will ignore him, and I'll get him out of my mind, and I'll let y'all deal with them, however he needs to deal with them. That being said, if we're going to come down on Diddy, there ain't no way you're gonna tell me that all of y'all that are coming down on Diddy, but then still rocking them what we call Confederate flags. They're really Confederate jacks. But if you're gonna rock the Confederate flag, but then talk about how evil Diddy is, you worse. In my eyes, I need to stay away from you, right? If you're gonna sit up there and talk about how bad Diddy is, but you're not gonna sit up there and talk about how the black woman needs to be protected. And I get it, all women need to be protected. But that being said, it's the same thing. Black lives matter. Well, no, all lives matter. We know what you're doing there, right? We get it. So if you want to protect all women, protect white women, protect Chinese women, protect European women, protect Caucasian women, because Caucasian doesn't necessarily mean white. Protect the Irish lass, protect the Scottish woman, protect the Mexican woman, protect the Spanish woman, protect the Argentinian, protect this, but then protect black women too. And don't only bring up that all women need to be protected if it's black women, because if that's the case, then you don't care about all women anyways. You're only bringing up all women so that you don't have to protect any of them. See what you signed up for when you signed up for all this stuff? Remember when we started this, or recall when we started this today? We literally spent 2 minutes on the fact that I was trying to say a father should take care of his children. Literally. It took us like 2-3 minutes. Because I was trying to say a father should protect his children, and us men were on here arguing about why it is that we shouldn't. I love you, brothers, and some of you might be mad at me for saying this, because some of y'all rock with this that we're saying it. Look, I'm just being honest with you. That's shameful. We got to do better. I get what you're trying to do. I get you trying to protect us. I get you trying to protect fathers that don't get to see their children. I get you trying to protect fathers against women who can be underhanded. I'm not saying believe all women when I'm saying that if all things were perfect the way y'all want, every father should take care of his family. I mean, I don't know what the argument's about. But because we're so busy trying to cape up for a system that's against y'all system, you hear what I'm saying? I get that all women should be protected. All children should be protected. All men, all of us are human beings. Yes, all of that's true. Now, if somebody's shooting at my wife and my mother and my grandmother, should I say that they shouldn't be protected, or should I say stop shooting at them? And if you're sitting up there and you're not even the one who's shooting or being shot at, but you're looking at it and you say, well, I would say something, but both sides have women. But if you're shooting at my women and I say I'm going to start shooting back, and you start telling me you won't shoot back, as a matter of fact, you start shooting with the other side because how dare I protect mine? That means that I'm somehow against all women because I would protect mine. That you are my enemy. Be mad at me all day, right? I'm not saying that I shouldn't protect. I told you that earlier when we were talking about it. If there was a so-called white woman on the street and somebody were trying to do something dastardly as far as taking her chastity from her, or there were a so-called black woman on the street and somebody were trying to take their chastity from her, if I didn't protect either one, right, something is wrong with me. But since I see my woman on the street, if somebody's trying to take her chastity, and I come out there and I start beating somebody's head in, somebody says, how dare you beat somebody's head in? We're all human beings. What does that have to do with protecting my woman? You see how messed up they got us? Signed up for evil. Now you're trying to debate on the side of evil and call it so-called good. No, if that's your mindset. But this is why I say, some of you just taking it to color. That's why I'm talking about nation, nationality. The nation is Israel. If you're grafted in, then you got to become the nation. There is no such thing as Jamaica over the kingdom of Israel, and I have Jamaica in me. There is no such thing as Haiti over Israel, and I have Haiti in me. There is no such thing as Shwe in before Israel, and I have Shwe in me. There is no such thing as Anakitawaya or Cherokee before Israel, and I have it in me. But it's not. There's one nation. Your people shall be my people, and your Elohim shall be my Elohim. That means I'm not Jamaican anymore. Not by birthright. I'm not saying that I have no ties to Jamaica physically. Hear what I'm saying? I'm not even saying there are some things that are said spiritually of Jamaica that come from the book. Hear what I'm saying, though, beloved. When I get up to heaven, y'all's not going to ask me if I'm Jamaican, but some of y'all think he's not going to ask me if I'm Israel. Guess what? He's going to ask. You don't get into the pearly gates if you don't pass Israelite names. You don't get into the pearly gates if you don't go on a foundation with Israelite names on the bottom. Did you know that? Have you read Revelation 21 and 22 and seen that you have to pass 12 names for one per pearly gate, and you have to be able to stand on 12 names, the names of the apostles? The 24 elders that I mentioned earlier in Revelation chapter 4. Have you read Revelation? You see, we've signed up into so much foolishness that we're fighting and infighting, and we're fighting for influx, and we're listening to fathers or sources and all this stuff, and they're not even righteous. Some of y'all hear this and you're afraid because you think nation means black or white. That's on you. That's not on the word, and that's not on me. I've never told anybody that because you're black or white, you can get in or out of heaven. I've never insinuated, I've never insisted upon it, and many Israelites don't. As much as everybody says every Hebrew Israelite does, there's enough of us to where, yeah, I can see why you look at it sideways, but to act like a majority of Hebrew Israelites feel like white people can't get into heaven, it's foolishness. It's the same thing that they told you when all black men were a problem. And they started telling you that. By the way, remember they started telling you, you don't know when this started. They started telling you in the late 1800s that all black men didn't take care of their children. They started telling you that all black men wanted white women. This came from a rhetoric where they were trying to teach you that all black men wanted to, I'm going to use the word, they wanted to rape white women. They came out with in 1915, was it? The original Birth of a Nation, in which they literally showed black men drooling and salivating, trying to get his hands on somebody else's woman. They told you that because they couldn't enslave you just because of the color of their skin. So as they hung you from trees and put you on new plantations called prisons, they wanted to make sure that everybody was okay with it and realized that the black man was a problem. They emasculated us in front of you. And now that black men are starting to stand up for themselves and say, hey, treat me like a human being, persons are saying we're racist. And those of you who know my heart on this, you know my heart. I'm not going to spend, because we are already over time anyways, right? I'm not going to spend 15 minutes, 25 minutes trying to explain that to you. If you know my heart, you know, once again, I'm not somebody who says anti-white. I'm not somebody who says you got to be 100% Israel. Matter of fact, most of us can't even claim to be 100% Israel anymore. So if you're talking about physical, you don't know how nation works. Because yes, physical works, but it's not about physical color. It is, though, about things that have to do with bloodline and things, but also being grafted in. At this point, it's about being grafted into the will, to the lineage, to the birthright, to the blessing, and to what? To the charge. We have responsibilities. Those who are Israel will follow responsibilities. And guess what? Still in the United States corporation, still in England, still all over the West, guess who is the most responsible as far as percentage-wise of brothers, whether married or not, of brothers who actually take care of their children? I'm not saying all of us do, because that would be a lie. It would be a big lie. That being said, though, even though I know we have a problem with it in our community, the most by percentage of so-called race, if you want to go there, or ethnic groups or whatever you want to call it, that take care of their children is the so-called black man. You look it up in the statistics, and then you come back and tell me if I'm lying. The only places that you'll find somebody saying are the same places that are still trying to do the same thing. Alt-right movements, KKK movements, et cetera, et cetera. The so-called black men, I'm not saying we perfect with it. We got to get to a point where we better too, because we have started acting like the world. That being said, even with all that, even with what happened with Willie Lynch syndrome, even with what's happened through chattel slavery, even with what's happened with the so-called African-American movement, even with our diasporas fighting each other to where our people in Europe hate our people in Africa, and our people in Africa hate our people in England, in America, and our people in America hate our people in South America, et cetera, et cetera. Even with all that going on, we still by percentage better than anybody else. Even with the drug problems that we have, We still by percentage better than anybody else. Even with not being able to get jobs, we don't even get the jobs. We don't even have the education. Even with all that, guess who we better than? Everybody else. I'm not trying to say that black people are better. Hear what I'm saying? They told you for so long that you were the worst that you can't even see if you might happen to be the best in something. And now we start having arguments in house, acting like we don't have a safe place, when the reality is that we're bringing in other people's arguments. These aren't even our arguments. You tell me, you show me the matter of fact, I will repent. I promise you. Thursday is Q&A. If somebody can before Thursday, I'm not even joking. I'm not being facetious. I'm telling you, because I want us to know that we're on the same page. Anybody who would like to search, and if you got stuff that goes back to before they took the YouTube channel down, because there's places you can access that. Look on Facebook, go back 50. At this point, shoot, how long we been on social media? You got to start with Facebook and YouTube. I say go back and look up hashtag find Kofi, look up hashtag SOC. It was hashtag SOC before. That's the longest hashtag we have. Hashtag Kofi Ofori, hashtag serve OC of DC, hashtag servants of Christ. Look up all these different hashtag expect a blessing from last year, hashtag live life love, all the different things. Go look back. Go look back on X. Go look back wherever it is. And X would be hidden because a lot of y'all don't even know we on X. I don't even use it, right? Like once every blue moon, you'll see me put something on there. Look on IG, whatever. You go and look for the recording where anybody, including myself, has said anything on SOC as far as white people are evil because they're white and black people are righteous because they're black. You will not find it. If you find it, I will repent and I will apologize on Thursday. That being said, don't let that stuff come up in here and mess with us. Don't let this whole argument of men are better than women or women are better than men mess with us. That's not our argument. Don't let the argument of that if they don't say Yahashvai, but they say Yeshua, it means that they're evil. I already told you that's dialect. You see what I'm saying? We'll get into arguments about stuff that's not even ours. Israel, we're having arguments with each other that's not even ours. If somebody is saying something and saying they're Israel and they're saying something against the word or they're mistreating the word, then we call them out. Don't feel ashamed to be Israel because your brother or your sister ain't got it together. If they don't got it together, we call them out. And if they don't get it together, then guess what? We let them go because they've cut themselves off by not following the word. And we pray for them that they get to a place where Yahashua can come, bring them back to, or the father, right, the husband can come and put them back on the true vine, Yahashua, so that they don't wither away and die. Let them repent. Don't put yourself in a place where you got to repent. Do you hear what I'm saying? Let them repent. Don't put yourself in a place where now you got to repent because you're doing wickedness too. Be who Yah has called you to be before the foundation of the world. Before the foundation. Before the world has something to stand on and try to call you out and tell you all these things that you're not. Before the foundation of the world, what did Yah say that you are and who do you believe that you are? Don't let lack of money tell you that you're not rich. You think you are poor, but really you're rich. Don't let, because you're the only person on your block that believes this, let you down. Because guess what? Hey, there are thousands that haven't bowed their knee down to Baal. You hear what I'm saying? See, some of y'all thought I was only talking about one place. No, you're in a position where you keep letting everything and everybody tell you and inform you about you, and you don't take time to let what Yah said about you be your information. Let Yah be true, and let every man be a liar. All right. Love y'all. I'm finished. My rant is done. I appreciate y'all. Thank you all so much for giving us your time today. I know it is Memorial Day. It's not our holy day. That being said, I do, because of my service and stuff in times past, I recognize that there is a sacrifice that was given to any man or woman that lays their life down for certain causes, but I would say for the cause of thinking that they're fighting for some kind of freedom. We give respect where respect's due. That being said, I don't recognize the holy day. I'll be back on later this evening at 8 p.m. New York time. The MITs, we got to do your last bit of training. Everybody who's coming to Philly, there's more information that's going to be coming out to you guys today as well. If you're coming physically, if you're coming virtually for Pentecost, we'll have more information that's going to be popping up this week. We're going to start at 2 p.m. New York time. No matter where you are in the world, 2 p.m. New York time, that should be enough time no matter where you are in the world with the persons we know focused in and locked in. We know that you guys should be able to come on with us. We will try to record it as well. And once we finish in Philly, I'm gonna try my best, if we can, to go up a little further, not too much further, not too long, but we'll try to go up a little bit further, little maybe touch Connecticut and all that stuff, and see if we can do something that's gonna be during the week though. So Tuesday, Wednesday-ish maybe, we could try to do something. So we'll try to put that out and put out a little feeler tester, see what everybody can or can't do. And then after that, we still will be traveling. We'll still be doing live sessions. But as far as some of the stuff, my family's going to take some rest and start getting this stuff together, because now we got to start training everybody to make sure we get these classes, to make sure we're all on the same page as far as membership and all that. But love y'all. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. So for the Philly spot, we'll give you guys the information, but that will be in Philly. That will be June 1st. We might try to do something on May 31st and June 1st, which would be Saturday, Sunday. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll definitely be together June 1st from 2 to 4 will be the official meetup. And then if there is time to try and find something else to do or somewhere to go, we'll try to see you guys there, and or do something like that as well. And then, like I said, we'll try to then see if we can go further north, say shalom to some persons a little further north. And then after that, maybe we'll touch some of you guys in North Carolina on the way down. I know some even said they might come from Tennessee if we try to do something in North Carolina. So we might try to put something on the weekend on our way back down, but come like June 13th, 14th, 15th-ish, we're going to be live and everything, but we're going to kind of be away from everything. Woosah, we haven't really stopped traveling. I don't know. March. We started going cross country March 29th, March 30th, but I think we've been on the road pretty much since like March 10th ish. So it's been a minute. So we're gonna take some time to just lay down somewhere for a while, bask in the sun a little bit, try to save up. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not saying this because I need help. I'm just being honest. Even like financially, I praise y'all. I was disciplined because we got everything we doing down to the penny. Speaking of which, not for us, family in need still needs help. We're trying to raise money for SOC family. Thank you. Some of you have already sent it to us, and we already sent what you've sent to them. We're trying to raise it until Thursday or Friday. I think Thursday is Thursday evening is when they need it, but if you still are able to send something by Friday, I'm sure they wouldn't mind it. I think Thursday is the I think they have to have it by like Thursday evening or something, or Thursday afternoon. Well, anyways, without telling me business. But long story short, I think we're raising it till Thursday evening. So if you're able to, we'll try to put some stuff out there. We might even put some stuff in the announcements or in different places, just as a reminder. If you're able to help out the family, if you do send something, please make sure that you put in there it does that and notify us that it is for the family in need, so we don't accidentally put it in the wrong place. All right, but love you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for those 5 to 10 persons. Thank you for those. As far as ministerial staff too, we thank you, Minister Samaya LeRae, for coming on and being obedient to the calendar and all the schedule that we had earlier. Thank you, and thank you for the ministers. Make sure you keep checking the calendar and everything that's been out. We'll redo that next month when we have our meetup in the beginning of the month. Oh yeah, and please make sure, please sir, that you're checking out the ministers on staff, talking to them if you have questions, comments, concerns, or anything that's moving. I've been doing a lot better with making sure that they're aware of stuff via text or just calling in person, whatever the case is, so they can see what's going on. If there's stuff that they need to get to me on, they know they can get to me on. Thank you to Sister Renee and everybody. And thank you for those who were with us for Early Rising Bible Study session. Thank you for those that were with us. Elder Select Nice, I believe, right? No. Was it Elder Select Tamara on Saturday? I think so. Gave the word, on Saturday. Ministerial staff on Sundays. I'm going to put a text out sometime today. But on Sundays, we're going to change the link. So we'll make sure that we have the link changed for a new day. Also, too, those who are on for When Life Happens with Elder Select. I'm sorry, too many Elder Selects and Ministers. Minister Sharon, she's going to be on every first Wednesday of the month, a couple hours before Elder Select Tamara comes on. So that should be changed in your notifications. So all that should be there. Thank you for the sisters who came out last night for the women's meeting. And this Saturday coming up, we might try to have some fun or something like that. There is nobody supposed to meet on 7 p.m. New York time on 5th Saturdays. We might try to come up with something. We might do another watch party or something this week as well. So just kind of connected and stuff like that. We'll try to see what we're doing. But love you all to life. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Stay safe, especially those who are still traveling from our meetups and stuff. Stay safe. Even if you're not celebrating Memorial Day or doing something on Memorial Day, we know that there are a lot of persons who ride around, persons get drunk, persons don't think. Sometimes stuff is crowded. You know, people can be irritated about a lot of stuff. Just be careful. Watch yourselves. Take care. Love you all to life. I am going to. I guess I'll finish up for today. We can try to do. Well, yeah, I'm finished for today. So I'll see you guys later this evening. MITs, we do have to have, no matter what, we got to have our meeting tonight. And I know there's a couple of things we got to do with you both individually, but we got to get this last meeting together so that we can make sure that you guys are ready to go on June 1st so you can get those initial sermons in and we can license you and everything. So love y'all. Take care. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, you guys were amazing, excellent as far as numbers and stuff. Thank you for sharing and all that. On TikTok, thank you for sharing and all that and joining us. If it's your first time, one time of many. We do this every day except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays is my day off. So we do have Elder Select Tamara. She comes on Wednesdays in the evening if you want to check her out. But just thank you, everybody. Love y'all. You all take care. You guys are so great and keep doing amazing things. We appreciate you. We will see you soon. I guess we'll do a brief shout out. If you don't know how the shout out works, if you're with us on TikTok, or if you want to come over to TikTok, and for us, it's not just virtual, it's reality. So we do a lot of work around the world, especially within the United States of America. And we try not only to do this virtually, but we literally are about meeting with each other, seeing where everybody is, supporting businesses, having persons that can meet up, regardless of whether I'm there in person or not. Is for us, it's not just virtual, it's reality. So if this is something that you like, what you heard today, and you'd like to be a part of it, or maybe even just get further, have some other questions, have somebody reach out to you possibly, or even just let us know where you be, just kind of follow the example of everybody else on TikTok. When we get to the shout out portion, when the music begins to play, they already know what to do. So when the music begins to play, you should be able to participate pretty easily, and and chime in. So once again, love y'all. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. If To everybody, a shout out to the children that came out as well: Addison, Andrew, Grace, Coda, Nolan, Solomon, even the children that didn't get a chance to come or whatever. We missed y'all a lot. We love y'all. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon. And once we get through with this, even though we do have a couple more holidays, we're going to start trying our best to get you guys ready. We already got the land and everything together over there as far as where we're going to meet up. So the next big one is going to be on October 6th to the 13th, depending on how many days you're able to come. That's when we're going to meet together for Feast of Tabernacles. So you're going to start seeing some information come out for that. And we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible. If we need to get, these groups together, sometimes people ride together and do all this stuff. So we're going to figure it out. But love y'all. Thank you so much for being on. Once the music begins to play, hopefully you guys who are on TikTok, you'll be able to follow the lead of those who know how to do the shout out, and love you all to life. So thanks again. We'll see you this evening. If not, we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll see you for prayer before then. If you can help the families that are in need, or the family, that's in need, then help them. We're raising up money until Thursday, Friday-ish. So thank you again in advance. Love y'all. Take care. And as always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. And remember that you are loved. You're necessary. You're majestic. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Take care. Enjoy your day.